Cenk believes if he can get to 10, 15, 20% in the polls, or someone can, that is going to force Gavin Newsom or someone like him to enter the race and force Biden to drop out.
There's a lot of stuff right now that is very weird.
I'm not trying to start this on or whatever, but yeah, I'm somebody, I admire the work that Hasan does. It's gonna be hard to get Vaush. I know Hasan involved this time around.
At some point in the future, I'm probably gonna break down and start crying because
I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about Cenk running for president? It's kind of a little crazy for me.
I don't know. I haven't spoken to him privately, obviously, because I've only seen him privately once in my life. I don't know what his goal is. I don't know if he's like trying to write a book or if he's trying to prove a point, or I truly don't understand. It seems silly, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, obviously, look, it puts me in a weird position because, like, I do work with Cenk, but I'm also trying to make sure the Democrats win. So it's been interesting for me. And I literally can't talk to him right now because, PACs can't coordinate with presidential campaigns. But I think the thing that people really get wrong with Cenk is, I think it's something similar that they do with you, where they assume there's like some pretext or whatever. And like what I've learned in working with you is like what you see is what you get. You're really upfront about what you think. There's not some secret agenda behind the scenes. And with Cenk, if he's saying like, look, my goal is I don't think Biden can win this time. I want to get to 20% in the polls and force someone like Gavin Newsom to get in. I can tell you for a fact that is his objective. Now, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that.
Wait, the objective is what? Restate that about Newsom getting in? Or?
He wants to, so Cenk believes if he can get to 10, 15, 20% in the polls, or someone can, that is going to force Gavin Newsom or someone like him to enter the race and force Biden to drop out. He actually had me doing a whole bunch of polling projects of trying a ton of people to see if they would be competitive against Biden. Everyone from Anna Kasparian, just up and down the race, just seeing who could actually like jump in this race and win. So it truly is what he's trying to do.
Okay. Do you want my honest feedback on that, or?
Yeah, no, of course.
I would be shocked if Cenk got more than 2% in any poll. 15 to 20% is an unbelievably high number they're shooting for. I would be shocked at over 2% on a 1-to-1 odds. And even if he did manage to climb to 15 to 20%, there is no shot that anybody in the Democratic Party is going to jump in and run against Biden, because you're committing political suicide. Do you think Newsom wants to be an enemy to the Democratic establishment? Do you think like that? I just don't see that ever being in a good political calculation for any Democrat. It would have to be like a huge outsider, I would think, not anybody that has like a future in the Democratic Party. But I could be totally wrong on that. Maybe I'm,
No, I don't disagree with you. I do think this is why he spent so much of the first of the year trying to get everyone else to jump in and run, right? And like something Cenk does that he doesn't get credit for is raising tons of money for people behind the scenes and talking to people and getting them to invest in candidates the Democratic establishment won't. So he really saw it, like he described it to me as like the nuclear option. And, especially with this, 14th Amendment stuff. It's a long shot, but it's just like, if you're asked, like, I can't say anything about what the efficacy of his plan is going to be, but I can say just the man himself, like what he says he's trying to do is what he's trying to do. That's just a fact.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if he says it publicly, I think Cenk is probably one of those people that I would say it's actually like a detriment. I think he's honest to a fault sometimes. I think sometimes he wears his heart a little bit too much on his sleeves, but I could be wrong. Maybe there's something I'm not aware of, but I've never heard of any stories, or I'm not aware of anything where like Cenk was doing something like sneaky, or was like trying to do something. He seems like he's pretty honest about it. I just think what he's doing is obviously I disagree with it. I think it's going to work, but I think he's pretty.
That's why, when Benny, the person that left TYT, the kind of tanky trans person, was like making all these allegations about Cenk, like secret conversations behind the scenes that Cenk is making. Like, I wasn't in that conversation, so I can't say, like, Benny is lying, but I talked to Cenk a lot, and I cannot imagine him saying half the stuff that she accused him of.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's really awkward.
Also, when it comes to public stuff like this, you should know this by now. I know this by now, right? Stuff like that never, ever, ever stays hidden if those kinds of conversations are happening. This is some shit where like everybody knows. Or there's like, there's a lot of things where like when they leak, everybody's like, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Whenever you're getting one person, we're like, oh yeah, this person is like a prolific N-word sayer, prolific transphobe, and it's like, really, one of the most popular people in this like alternative media set, and nobody else has heard it but you? Damn, there must be on some sociopathic shit to only reveal that side around you. Yeah, so yeah, I agree. Yeah. I don't think Cenk is like a bad person.
This is what made the Tara Reid stuff so non-credible. Like, you're telling me, like, she's coming forward trying to say Biden's like a sexual predator, feeling people
from like 40 years ago, and it's like,
yeah, and no one else has done it. It's like, okay, Tara, what's more likely? You're a Russian agent and are kind of unwell because of some of this other stuff that's been alleged, or Biden was just overcome by you and then got his stuff together immediately after that and never did it again. Like, I never want to like accuse like a woman bringing forward sexual allegations of being a liar, but I think I could say it doesn't feel credible to me in any remote way. So I don't know. How do you think, like, I think one of the things that is really hard for my job, though, is, like, everyone's looking at Biden's polls right now, and there's a lot of internal stuff that gets leaked around, to people like me and the party, just like, hey, we ran this poll, look at this, look at our numbers with Muslims, look at our numbers with this.
I don't understand. And, there's a lot of stuff right now that is very weird in terms of, like, the polling not being correlated with a lot of stuff going on right now. There's two huge things that this has popped in. One has to do with Biden's popularity, which I think might be at record lows. But my understanding is, my brain is like fully existing in the Middle East right now. Okay, so if I'm wrong on any of these facts, somebody can feel free to correct me. My understanding is absolutely none of Biden's unpopularity has translated into any special election race ever. That the Democrats are doing exceedingly well in every forum where like special elections and shit are popping up, and it doesn't seem like Biden's unapproval rating or whatever is affecting that whatsoever. So that's
dead on.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really weird.
Like a generic Democrat is doing much better in the polls.
Yeah, so that's one thing that's
specific.
A little bit strange. And then a second thing that's like peripherally related to this topic that's also weird is economists are having a lot of problems right now trying to figure out why so many people are having such negative opinions on the economy when every economic indicator on broad groups of people is outrageously positive. And it's something that a lot of people, and now a lot of economists, I'm starting to see more articles where economists are like, why do Zoomers feel like they're doing horrible in this economy? Because like their wages have dramatically outpaced inflation. They're some of the highest wage growth people of all time. They're doing better than I think even boomers were doing. Their home ownership rates are on track to pass everybody and already are ahead of, I think, Gen Xers and millennials, because millennials enter the housing market post-crash and everything. Like when you look at like all of the indicators, all of the wage growth, all of the like educational, like all of these things for Gen Z, they're really good. And for a lot of the economy broadly, they're actually pretty good. But people's economic outlooks, their feelings when you poll them are horrible. People feel like everything is horrible, but you cannot find anything in any of the data to say like, why do people feel like shit is so you can't find it in home ownership rates. You can't find it in educational attainment. You can't find it in wage growth. You can't find it in inflation. You can't find it in productivity you can't find it anywhere. So when you ask me this question about like Biden and the polls and everything, I don't know if like the social media is dictating our opinions to us like even more, but it's getting really difficult to track like what is actually happening and how do you figure what people are actually feeling and what they're actually gonna do. It's a very, very, very difficult thing to track right now, I think. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with that. When I'm just about to sign a contract to bring Pixie on full time to work with me at PV, right? And yeah, she's amazing. I love working with her. She is like, she makes a lot more money than I did at her age. Just frankly, when I was a young staffer in DC, even adjusted for inflation. And it's like, if you're looking objectively, I think that it can be true about that. What I think it's two things. I think one, social media really tends, it trains people to be doomer pilled on everything, because it's always the darkest take. If you're not cynical on everything, like that cynicism is a kind of armor, and this is two generations of America that have just been beaten down at every turn. Real
quick, I'm sorry, because this is all of social media. So just real quick, Mike, you are out of touch if you think people should just change their minds on the economy. The price of everyday items are still as high as when we had low supply. purposefully, Destiny, literally everything is more expensive. Somebody else said, Destiny has been wild the last 24 hours. Housing prices are going crazy though. No, so you guys are all saying this. Find me anything that supports that, because I'm starting to believe that these are opinions that you're getting from social media, and they start and they stop there. Because when you look at purchasing power parity, the PPP index, when you look at any of these other indexes, you cannot find what you're talking about. You cannot find what you're talking about. The idea that like a hamburger costs $27 and I can't afford it because my wages aren't growing, that just doesn't exist. If you have it anywhere, then shoot somewhere, like shoot me a link or whatever, I can look for it. But like I just read another article yesterday, I think it was even posted on the economics subreddit, where economists are trying to figure out, and they're looking at like all these different indexes, like where is the economic anxiety that people are saying coming from, because it doesn't track anywhere. There's no place to find this on paper anywhere. So is it something is there like a subset of Americans that are being missed? Is it just social media sentiment that's feeding negatively into things? Is like, what is actually causing shit to happen? Yeah, why do people feel this way? Yeah. And I know you can go onto social media and you go onto Twitter and you can say like, oh, you're out of touch. Oh, you're out of touch. No offense, my dude, and I love you and I value you as a viewer, but if you're sitting here in my YouTube chat watching a politics streamer, you're probably out of touch. You already represent like the top 5% of Americans. If you've got time to sit on a computer, you have a computer or a cell phone that's good enough to watch my stream, you've got internet, and you've got the free time to sit here and consume my content, motherfucker, you're out of touch, okay? If you think that you represent even close to the average American. Sorry, okay, go ahead.
No, it's completely dead on. I do think this is what I wonder if it's going on, and maybe I'm completely wrong on this, but I think about when I was in my 20s, and it was when the tech industry was really starting up, the dot-com like explosion, right? Clinton was president, and everything seemed super hopeful, right? Like I grew up, there was no question I was gonna be able to afford a house. Like, I knew one day I'd be able to get Porsches. Like I knew I could do anything I wanted. And nowadays, I do think that younger people are like looking at the future of the country, and it's like, is there gonna be a stable economy 20 years from now? I think that's a legitimate question, right? The climate change, that's a legitimate. You don't agree with that?
No, I think that the doomerism runs a little bit too high. It's like, I understand like people might be worried about some things or whatever, but like this idea that like everything's gonna fall apart, like, bro, we had World War I, we had World War II, we had a civil war, like we had, like Vietnam, like we had the whole Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, like literally nuclear weapons coming to our fucking doorstep off the shores of Florida, right? If we made it through all of this, the idea that some like 20-year-old is like, oh God, climate change, I can't deal, I'm hopeless, like, no, this is some shit that is like rotting people's brains from social media, I think. Yeah, we just made it through 2007, the housing bullshit, and we came out of that. Remember, 2007 was the end of the world, right? And the world economy somehow bounced back, mostly, not for everybody, mostly in like 6 to 7 years. Like unbelievable. We had COVID-19 and conservatives were saying everybody's going to have vaccine passports and there's going to be a new virus and mutation every moment. And now we're like basically, COVID, it's endemic, who cares, right? I understand that people can feel bad sometimes and those feelings aren't always unjustified, but I think there is a doomer narrative that is just very attractive that people love to circulate and feedback on themselves, and it's just not healthy. And it's not reflective of like how you should navigate the world, in my opinion.
I definitely agree with that. I think this like constant America bad, both political parties are broken, all politicians are bad. There's no like point to even trying to vote. I had a meeting with a bunch of people in Congress yesterday, and we were talking about this strain that we see in the party, which really, really concerning. Like there is a substantial portion of Gen Z, and this shows up in internal polling that we look at that consistently shows they don't believe in electoralism. And no offense to Hasan, but I think it's programs like his that are really driving this kind of feeling with people. Like democracy is not worth fighting for. And I remember when I was running for Congress, one of the coolest things I did is I started going to a bunch of black churches to like get their votes in my districts and just get to meet people, right? And I remember one of the most popular preachers lives around the corner from me, like got up and he was talking about like this amazing speech. And you got to understand, like Obama got his background, and the reason he's such a great speaker is because he grew up in these churches, and so he's up there, he's was talking about the history of civil rights. And he's like, every single other damn generation in this country has had to fight for justice and pushing us forward. What makes you so special? You get to sit it out. And I was like, yeah, that's right. And I think that's so true. I think this generation, like, women's rights are going backwards.
Oof, and that,
what are you going to do about it? What the hell are you going to do?
I agree, yeah. And just on what you reminded me there, oh my God. Okay. So I'm watching YouTube, and I've got, the black socialist YouTube is just all dog shit creator. I'm sorry, I'm being very broad, but like FD signifying all these people are, I get like the worst opinion of like this kind of like online, the young, like progressive socialists, like all these, not just the black ones, but the white ones too. When I went door knocking in Georgia, I'm so glad I did this and I had the perspective of this. Those old black people, they were some of the most electorally fucking committed people that I have ever seen. It was door after door of like, hey, just so you know, remember, January 24th, I already signed my shit, baby. I already dropped this off. We already did this. You better believe I took my hope. I would say half the doors I knocked on, they knew every date for the election, and they had already done all their shit. And the idea of like voting and everything, it was just so strange seeing like in that, I think it was Columbus is where we did all of our work, to see that black community there, and then to go onto Twitter where everybody's saying like, oh, black people know that voting is a waste of time because the system is broken, and black people know that blah, 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 blah. And then, the juxtaposition between that and the people whose doors I knocked on and the older black people in Columbus, holy shit, I couldn't believe the level of politically higher than any white community that we door knocked in, that I door knocked in at least, and higher than almost any other community I went in. That was wild to me, the differentiation there, or the juxtaposition there, yeah.
You're dead on, and because, like, look, I grew up in the South, and in Mississippi, black communities, after the civil rights movement, like, this is why there's so many like black majority towns in the South, because like after the Civil War and after the Civil Rights Act, so many black people like got together in their own communities, and they're like, look, the KKK is going to come knock on our door. The only way we can keep each other safe is to really quadruple down on electoralism, like make sure we've got the right people like in office and keep ourselves safe. So that's why like the Jackson City Council, all black, 100% focused. Johnny Dupree in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, ultra focused, like that community, keeping itself safe. And this is where Stacey Abrams comes from. It's not a surprise to anyone that lives in the South that the only people, despite all these Harvard morons I run into constantly here in Massachusetts, that the only person to get her S together and actually organize Georgia was Stacey Abrams, because she comes from that tradition. She understands how it works. It's not ads, it's personal relationships down there, and it's tapping into that, to the exact same feeling. So if we are going to win the South, we've got to like empower people like that and triple down on those tactics. And this is why I have no patience for LGBT people when they start like talking to me like the system is broken, there's no point in like getting ahead. Go look at the black tradition in this country. Like this is, it is so important to participate in the system and push it forward. And we got to start talking about this shit like it's academic. Like, let's get real. Put good candidates up. Get on the ballot. Get out and vote. Like, the very best you're going to get in this country is what the hell you fight for.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and the voting thing is so important. Did MLK write an article, or was it Malcolm X, The Power of the Vote? I'm trying to remember who wrote this. It was a small... I don't know, but yeah, like going out and voting is the most important thing you can do. Like, yeah. But
so I was watching your thing with Willie Mack right before this, and I gotta tell you, I'm not trying to start shit with Hasan or whatever, but I'm somebody I admire the work that Hasan does, especially with him being related to Cenk. Like I don't always agree with him, but I appreciate someone that is like built a platform, right? Like there's a base level of respect that comes with that. But I have to say, like lately, like you were saying in your stream with Willie Mack, like about how you think this has really damaged his impression with normal people. And I have to tell you, I know a lot of people that feel that exact same way. Like it really feels like he's tripling down on some really like bad stuff lately. It goes beyond Israel Palestine. It's just
it was the Taiwan and Tibet stuff. It was the re-education camps, the capitals of socialism. I didn't know that Hasan was actually, it sounds, I don't know if I'm going from mean to meaner or mean to stupid, but like I just assumed Hasan was like maximizing like clout in politics, and that's kind of how he functioned. I didn't know that he actually had more extremist beliefs. Yeah. So yeah, he I guess he lucked out in that his extremist beliefs were kind of popular for a while, or they were. I don't know how that's going to fare now in a post, Russian invasion world, post Israel Palestine world, post whatever other shit happens. But yeah, that surprised me. Like I said, he shouldn't be anywhere near that what is it called, the deprogramming show?
Yeah, the deprogramming podcast. Oh
it
my
just
God,
doesn't serve him anything. Yeah. There is no why would he ever do that? Even if he was radical, if he had any semblance of like self-preservation for his career, he would stay as far away from that fucking show as possible. It's literally the America First Nazi equivalent to like tanky shit on the left. Why would you be in their chat talking? Why would you be a guest on the show? Yeah. That was unbelievable to me. I didn't really know that his politics actually bent that hard in that direction. But yeah, geez.
Do you remember, so I think progressives are dealing with this right now, but one of the things for all of us that lived through Bush 2 that I really think a lot about is fear and anger and hatred only work so long as a political tactic. Like after 9/11, the Republican Party pivoted really hard into fear of terrorism, fear, anger, you're under attack, you're gonna die, anthrax, as Saddam Hussein's got WMD, is gonna hit the country, like fear. And Bush did that, and fears, queers, and smears helped him win the 2004 election. But by the time the 2008 rolled around in Obama, people were so tired of that playbook that someone coming forward with a hopeful vision of where the country could go that had a lot of salience. And that's why that kind of view has been the center of the Democratic Party for quite a while now. I think that progressives, and I really fell into this in the Gamergate era, anger at the patriarchy, things are bad, women are not treated well. There's just a limit for how long people can hear that message and double down on it. And I think this is what Hasan is hitting. America Bad is an emotionally exhausting message to hear day after day about how much the country sucks. At a certain point, the progressive movement has got to be about policies that you believe in, where you want to go, what we can build together, the things you can personally get. It's not a vision to have this degrowth bullshit and we're gonna get racial justice around the world and you're gonna have a
global socialist revolution.
It's crazy.
It's
crazy.
Yeah. The America Bad shit. I hate that. Here's a big issue. And you know this because you lived and breathed all of this right alongside me. You remember when the alt-right and the Gamergate and everything were blowing up in 2015, 2016 and all that shit, right?
Yeah, I have some memories.
They would complain a lot saying everything is going in this direction. And I would say it's not, or your fears are unjustified right now. But then for a lot of it, it largely has. It just has happened. So one thing that I wonder, because if you make an incorrect prediction, it means you have to go back and you've got to adjust a formula, right? If you're an economist and you try to retrofit a formula to figure out am I making good predictions, blah, blah, blah. So you have to go back and look, right? I feel like, and maybe I'm doing a good job at seeing where we are, but I don't do a good job at seeing where people want to take things. There were times when I think Noah Opinion might have written an article, or might have been somebody else written an article about how cool it was to be the 2000, it was the quintessential 2010 snobby liberal. This was actually morally a cool dude. They were big on gay marriage. They didn't want us to do unethical wars. They wanted us to help poor people. They were huge on even LGBT issues in general. This was the snobby liberal, right? And the conservatives had disdain for them, academics and blah, 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 blah. But it was you could aspire to it. I wanted to be the 2008, 2009, 2010 snobby liberal. But now, the evolution to the progressive is way further. And what I wonder is was it ever possible to defend the SJW-isms of 2010 to 2013 without having an automatic buy-in to where we are now? Because I don't want to say that oh yeah, Sargon, you were right the whole time. We should have just never had gay marriage because it inevitably leads here. But sometimes I don't know if people can are people capable of pumping the brakes on some things or being grounded and saying this is good to fight for, now stop and look at something else. You don't have to push everything to its fucking extreme,
So I'm going to answer that, and I'm not trying to glaze you. This is said sincerely, and I really mean it. So I think about like my involvement in Gamergate back then, and I started with this core mission that I still think was a good mission, right? Women in the game industry are not treated well. If you look at that era, there were no women on stage at Apple events. The number of like game companies led by women was pretty much non-existent.
Or when they were in gaming companies, they were getting sexually harassed and all this shit, and like
100%.
Riot and Blizzard and all these things popping up. Yeah.
All of that. So I started with what I think was a good mission objective, that there were problems within the game industry and how women were treated. And as someone that was running a small game studio, like I had a front row view to everything that was wrong with that. What I have really clear memories about now is getting more and more radicalized to like in the trauma I was feeling from all the attacks on me and stuff like that, getting more like, well, it's not just that we have to hire more women. Now we've got to, look at how there's only 2% of black women hired in the game industry. Well, the fact that we have fat phobia in the game industry, that's really wrong. Hey, why do we have all these stereotypes in the game industry, right? And it's not that any one of these things are wrong or I disagree with them. It just keeps purity spiraling down and down and down into this place where you're going, well, hold on a second. I've got some questions about that. Or I think this is off topic, and there's no place where you can hit the brakes and go, hold on, my mission objective here is Intel just put out $100 million to help women in tech. Can we just focus fire and not try to reinvent the entire country and just make sure more women are being hired? This is the problem that we fell into, and it's why the game industry didn't substantively change. When you fast forward to when I, like after the CAFL stuff, and I really started watching your stuff to understand like what you do, I saw someone that had the balls to say some things publicly that I had been thinking for years that I didn't feel safe voicing against my own like group of people, right? And really thinking through that and saying, okay, can we actually look at the science here and have a policy discussion and try to find what the right answer is? So I think that's the answer, like what you call omniliberalism, being open enough to struggle with those questions and not be afraid to go, well, how do non-binary people fit into the trans movement? Let's think about that. How do socialists fit into the overall Democratic Party? How do we incorporate them in a way that's functional, not just capitalism bad? I think we're afraid of that conversation, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like I think there are like two big reasons why a lot of those pushes end up failing. They start off like so good, and then they end up going so bad. And the two things that I think hurt are, this was before I started saving articles. I read a really good article, or somebody emailed me a really good article about how one of the most important things that you can do to solidify a political win is to have grace and humility in victory. That when you've gotten a win, it's so important to be like, okay, we won. You guys might be disappointed, but we're just gonna chill, okay? Because we have our win and we're gonna rest on it. But that when you start gloating and when you start lording this over people, you foster so much resentment and hate that it will always come back to bite you in the ass. That's the first one. So one is the incredible level of like snark that people have when it comes to some of these issues. Because I think that there is a way, and this is what I hate. I think there are some topics that are so unbelievably pure and good that it would take a sociopath to fight back against it. Okay, a girl saying something like, "I just think it would be so cool if we just had like a few more women superheroes. I would love that. That would be so cool. I want somebody else like flying around and doing this, blah 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 blah." The only people who are gonna fight against that are people that have like paleo conservative, like all natural meat diet, masculine, blah blah. Like nobody's really good. Yeah, fine, that's fine. Nobody like. Yeah, you can do that. You can have that. So one is that like this aura of superiority has to dissipate, and it has to come from like this would just be cool because a lot of people want this. Okay, that's the first thing. Also, historically, well, no, I'll do the second point and then historically. Okay, the second point is it has to come from within and be respectful to the medium itself. And I think this was a huge problem with a lot of Gamergate stuff, was for like Gamergate, the chief feminist for this appeared to be Anita Sarkeesian. And you can remember the big attacks against her. And I remember, because I was one of the big attackers against her, because I hated her back then. I probably still would hate her, but I definitely hated her back then. And I remember going through her whole fucking PhD dissertation, like, oh, she doesn't play fucking video games. I don't even think she does any of this shit. Oh, she stole video footage when she was doing her feminist critique. She didn't play any, I remember saying all these things. But my feeling at the time was, right, and I remember my feelings. My feeling is, she doesn't even like video games. Why the fuck are you coming into my domain and telling me what to do and criticizing my shit? Fuck you, you're not even part of this. But if it does come more endemically, I think that there's a different feeling, because the criticism feels more genuine and respectful to the medium. And then wrapping this all up, like historically, I think you have seen unbelievably positive representations of, I'll say, especially women in mediums, where nobody is questioning the intent. You will not find a single person, and if you did, everybody around would rightly beat the shit out of him, saying like, oh, I didn't like Ripley and Alien and Aliens. Like, I don't think she was appropriate. That was people would beat the shit out of him. I didn't like Kill Bill because it was too many women fighting. No, they had swords, they were chopping each other. It was fucking awesome. Nobody's, or like, I didn't like Black Panther. Wow, Africa, really? Come on. No, it was a good movie. It grossed over $1 billion, right? When you're respectful to the medium, and when you don't come at it with this huge level of snark, I think that you can like grow and push for a lot of these, a lot of these kinds of like, I hate saying diversification because it's a bad word, but like you can, and I think it's like a good way to do that. A final thing I'll say, sorry, all these things. I don't know if I ever talked about this stream. Blizzard had a tool. I don't know if you heard about this tool, but they had like a diversity tool where after you put, this was an example for when this came out, and I even admit, when I saw it come out and I saw the house, I was like, God, this is so fucking cringe. You have a diversity checker tool to make sure that you're hitting all your boxes. But then I saw like there was a post of an artist who they gave like it wasn't even a hugely thought out thing, but they're like, you know, I think it's really cool sometimes that like if you do a whole story, you storyboard out, you write all these things, and then you look and you're like, oh, I noticed I don't have a single, woman, or I don't have a single black person, or there's not a single, not even LGBT, there's nobody here. It might be nice to just like flesh that out in like one character. Like, oh, I can very easily add this. It's not a detriment to the story, and like it makes my stuff a little bit more inclusive and expansive. There was nothing wrong with that tool. It was totally fine. But I'd already been so poisoned just reading headlines because like, oh God, a diversity tool, that I already hate it. Even though I'm like, oh, actually, in retrospect, yeah, that probably is a decent tool. Yeah, to check to make sure your shit is like fine. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, no. It's down on. There's nothing wrong with that, and I see this over and over in the game industry, which is, if you go to GDC and you're hanging out with people, let's just be honest, it's a bunch of now dads that are like 30 to 50 that are generally Democrats, and they, in their heart of hearts, want to be decent to women that work in the video game industry. But when you get a bunch of dudes together, I mean, you've seen this in your community. I think DGG is amazing, but there's like when you were talking about pornography in chat and you wanted to ban that for a while, right? Like you get a bunch of dudes together and there's stuff that just is problematic that comes out, or blind spots, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think that's bad. The conclusion I've come to, and I think 2010 Brianna Wu would hate me for saying this, is I think the problem with the checklist, I think this is why the Marvels ended up bombing.
Wow, Danny, thanks for $50.
For this particular movie, what they needed to do is like quadruple down on Captain Marvel's character, really go into her backstory, find an angle to make her interesting. But what did they do? I have no doubt they're sitting around going like, this is kind of problematic. A white woman leading this movie. Let's work two women of color into this movie and have it be an ensemble. And then nobody shines, and then it's not a good narrative, and it's not an interesting story. So I think...
And you run into the problem with a lot of these like female-led things, especially newer things, and I see this, and I can't help but imagine it's part of the creative process. I could be wrong, but like hero stories are slingshots. You start in an area, and you got to pull really far back. You've got to destroy the hero. They've got to be confronted with a challenge that they can't overcome, and that's when they go and they do their training, and that's what makes the success of the end feel so good. It's like the super standard hero's journey that obviously in a superhero movie you need, but there are so many new female movies. I say so many, but like the Star Wars ones were a really good example with Rey, or Captain Marvel, really good examples, where it really does feel like they're really afraid of showing women failing on screen.
Yeah.
It feels like they're terrified of showing a woman getting the shit beat out of her, or fucking up, or making a big mistake, or failing horribly. They can't show it. And I'm like, is this actually what's happening right now? Yeah.
How about just being unlikable? This is the whole reason Jessica Jones was like, I know so many women that love Jessica Jones because she is unlikable and she is bathing in trauma, but it feels real. and dark in a way like most narrative won't do. They'll never do that for a woman like character in a Disney movie. They'll never do that, right? So I don't know. I think there's just a limit to how far this particular playbook can get us. And something, just to bring it kind of back to the politics, the thing that I have learned by now is like all this stuff is about addition. It's not about subtraction.
Sure.
And one of the reasons, like, for like the VidCon event, like I can really, I'm proud to work with you and I'm proud to work with Vaush, even though I understand y'all have differences with each other.
Yeah.
I don't need your vision to win and Vaush's to lose or vice versa, right? Mm-hmm. My job is about, look, if Vaush is out there fighting for the version of electoralism he believes in, and you're doing the one you are, and my God, if we could get Hasan to actually engage with electoral politics, that would be great. And he's out there doing that. I think overall that's a win, right? And I think there's this tendency on the left, because we've so underestimated the threat the Republicans pose this time around to democracy itself, that we're focused on each other. And I just don't think that's a good playbook for where we need to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think for Vaush, as much as I hate and disagree with everybody, blah, 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 at least like Vaush is still good-pilled on electoralism, like he advocates for voting and all of that. I don't know about Hasan or where that's going to be, but I'll give Vaush credit for that. At least Vaush is like pushing his audience to vote, and he's like, espousing.
I think it's going to be hard to get Vaush and Hasan involved this time around.
I don't think Hasan will want to be involved in anything. I think he doesn't have any. Yeah, but
I hope you're wrong, but I suspect you're right. I don't have much longer.
Oh,
but I wanted to say
one quick thing on vibing with what you said. Real quick, Sejin should link me the fundraiser for this, because I should be promoting this.
We should be doing that. Yeah.
I hope that one of the scariest things is that as we peel back, because it's so hard to get people to do this, there's that saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, obviously, that I hope that as we peel back on some of the crazier shit, we don't lose some of the good shit. Because like having more colors of people on screen, more genders on screen, more LGBT and all of this, like when it's done in a good way, it's like really cool. And it's really awesome to have like these different characters and these different heroes and these different roles that like different people can aspire to and all of this. I hope that as we peel this back, because it's gone a little bit too far, we don't throw all of it out like the Roe v. Wade shit. Like where we're like, okay, well, clearly this whole thing was a mistake, so f all of this. We're not going to do any of this. We're going to like march back 20 or 30 or 40 years in terms of social values. That would be incredibly sad to me. But yeah.
Well, obviously, I agree with that. The thing I have learned about political messaging is there's no future for getting women to march forward and to get our stuff back that doesn't also involve like acknowledging men's pain and trying to move all of us forward together, right? Because if it's just like men suck, women don't have it like treated fairly right now, it just turns into a screaming match. You can't get buy-in from anyone. If you're kind of talking about like, look, this is all really painful for all of us right now. Here's what we need to do for men. Here's what we need to do for women. This is what the Democratic Party stands for, addressing all of these problems. That gets buy-in from more people. And, from my work with Rokana, like one of the things I really hope he will do more of is like show that the Democratic Party gives a shit about young men. Because I think we are completely failing at that. Right now, you have, like, I think you do a really good job of this. And I think to an extent, something I respect about Hasan is showing that leftist men can be cool. I think that has a lot of value. But I think overall, like, we are leaving young men that are horny and lonely to the arms of the Republican Party because no one's bothering to talk to them.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wonder sometimes if it's the job of the Democratic lawmaker body establishment to deal with the men's issues, or if that's kind of more on like the social activist side. Like, I don't know if guys in Congress are going to be communicating with young men as much. But maybe. Don't
you think it was powerful when Josh Hawley started talking about this? Because I did.
I haven't even seen what he said about it, so I'm not sure. But I feel like... sorry, go ahead.
It's very straightforward. He just started talking about it and we did more of what he talked about. He's a good-looking dude. Obviously don't agree with his politics, but I think there's a role for Democrats to talk about, like, a generation of young men that I do think they're increasingly like directionless. And like I remember when IGN was really blowing up, like around 2008. I remember watching this, that like, holy crap, people are treating Greg Miller like he's their dad. Like they had this show called Knocking Boots, like writing into Greg Miller to ask how to ask girls out and stuff like that. And I was like, that's really weird. But I think there are a lot of young men out there that are looking for direction like that, in my view.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I mean, I even if I don't think it needs to come from the Democratic establishment, it definitely needs to come from the left more, that we need to be able to have better conversations about like all the different types of people in society, and not just like the particular pet groups that we've decided to adopt, like black people or trans people or whatever. It literally has to be inclusive and have everybody in it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Sedgwick is asking me to make sure we talk about the canvassing house. Like, can I just ask you point blank, what made you want to, like, it's so hard to be a YouTuber and do all the stuff you've got to do to be successful, that if you're talking about like running a canvassing house on top of that, like it's like, I respect the hell out of it, but I also know how much work it is. So what made you kind of want to step up and commit your time to something like that?
Something that I've talked about before was as I've made more money and I have certain beliefs, like I feel like the level of social responsibility you have, like it starts to like match the level of, I guess, like capability you have. Like if I was on a plane and somebody was having a heart attack, I mean, what am I going to do? But if I was a doctor and somebody was having a heart attack, there's like a greater moral responsibility on me, I guess, to do it. So I feel like if I'm making a lot of money and I believe these things, then I should probably like push, I'm trying to find ways that I can like impact real world political change. And one of those is through canvassing, and my audience, I guess, is taken to that, is like the canvassing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I could go make a lot more money doing different things, but, it's like I've got a house, I've got a nice Porsche collection, like, like I feel real responsibility to do what I can to get this country in a better, place, if that makes sense. And not saying like I'm perfect at this or I have some special ability, but I think a lot about this. My dad was a naval officer, and I do genuinely think all the time about what I owe this country and how we're going to leave it. And it really scares me, the direction some of this stuff is going. And I feel real responsibility for that. And I just, what I see is the Democratic Party does not understand shit about the streaming space. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you which members of Congress or which senators, but I've tried to talk to them about Twitch, Paul, and YouTube and these spaces, and kind of say, this is something that has value and we need to be engaging over here, or at least offering a pipeline for people that are interested in electoralism, how to get them involved. And they're completely tuned out of this. And it's not malicious. It's just they look at it from the outside and it's like, oh, this scandal, this drama, and it's really scary for them to engage with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard now to measure the impact that everybody has on everything, like how big are streamers. Here's one of the things. It's like I know this intuitively now. No, not intuitive. I had to learn this because of my big brain. Okay, it's not intuitive, but like it's difficult to measure things in just numbers, because like type of engagement is different as well. So like for instance, if you're looking in from the outside, somebody having 10 million followers on TikTok seems really impressive. And you might value that more than somebody who has 1 million followers on YouTube, but that's way more impressive. 1 million followers on YouTube. And then you might look at that like, okay, I could have 10 million followers on TikTok, 1 million followers on YouTube, or I could have 50,000 concurrent viewers in a live stream. That's obviously the worst, right? But that's not. It's like, that's you're outperforming everybody. 50,000 concurrent live stream viewers. Yeah, because like the level of engagement and the types of activations you can do with different audiences is so much different. Like a 10 million TikToker, his conversion is going to be 1/10 that of the YouTuber, which is going to be 1/100th out of the streamer and everything. So it's hard to get people to intuitively understand the spaces or intellectually understand it, or to provide data or whatever. It's I wish that people took I'm quoting Donald Trump and Elon Musk. They always say this, but they don't actually fucking do it. But like, if people were to run these things a little bit more business oriented, where it's like, okay, well, what are the actual numbers that we're looking for to make sure that we're getting the results that we want? People always say this thing like, run it like a business, but then they never do for some reason. But yeah, I think that would be good. Like, what is the actual impact of these political ads that we're doing? Like, can we measure this, and what's the most effective allocation of our funds, and blah, 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 yeah.
Oh my God. If you saw the way the Democratic Party measures this stuff behind the scenes, dude, it is the most flawed metrics you're ever going to see in the entire world. It's focus groups, it's safe. And, of course the Democratic Party loves TikTok. Like, if you're talking about the Biden super PAC, of course they're quadrupling down on TikTok. They love it because they can get the most brand safe people in the entire world that are not out there like you talking, for 8 hours a day. They're out there like really getting brand safe and focused for 2 minutes at a time. And they will literally say anything you want them to say, as long as you give them the script and pay them and the metrics look good. Of course, it's like, oh, that's great. TikTok looks amazing. Like, even Lav, her TikTok stats like originally looked really impressive. But if you're talking actually getting people out to come canvass or vote, there is like an emotional buy-in that I think the YouTube, Twitch space has that just blows all the rest of it out of the water. Like, I may like a Mehdi Hasan clip, but he's not out there like, his 500,000 people that watch his show. It's like more on in the background. It's just less of a relationship. So I think the Democratic Party has got to get really, I think this shouldn't be the only thing we do. I think it should be part of it. The thing that keeps me up at night, though, is thinking about how this space dramatizes everyone and turns them into villains and heroes. Like, I think the first time a politician has a really big scandal Twitch style, I think it's going to scare the entire party away from participating here.
Yeah. One thing that I really want to see, it's like kind of related to what you're saying. I don't know if this will ever happen, but I'm just waiting for one company. I feel like we need one hero to step out and change this, okay? Obviously, I'm biased here.
Yeah.
For one company to represent somebody, have an employee, have a CEO, where he says something that's like not, I don't even think we say politically correct anymore. It's woke, right? Not woke, or he does something, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, cancel this guy, fire him, blah, 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 blah. And the company's just like, you know what? No, we're actually not going to. I don't think this is a big deal. Because in my personal opinion, I feel like all of this shit would blow over in like 3 days. But for some reason, corporations grant so much power to like the cancel culture and shit. Fuck the people, let them be mad for a little bit, and then it'll blow over in 3 days and then just move on. I feel like when one company does that, I feel like the culture around like massive cancellations on like celebrities or blah, 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 or like brand safe and all that, I feel like that would change dramatically. Save for instances where it's like severe, right? Like you don't want to hire a guy who's a Nazi, or you don't want to, do whatever the fuck Elon Musk is doing. But yeah, I wish people would stop trying to like water down and generalize everything. So obviously I'm, as a spicier character, I might be a bit more biased there. But like, I'll see people fire people or do things. God, I wish I could remember. Like James Gunn was a great example. Do you remember when Cernovich got James Gunn kicked off Guardians of the Galaxy 2? And I'm thinking like, Disney, there is not a single fucking person in the entire world that's not going to see Guardians of the Galaxy 2 because Mike Cernovich is digging up 11-year-old tweets from James Gunn. How are you feeling any pressure whatsoever from that? Yeah, I don't know. And I know they brought it back for GOG 3 or whatever, but like still, yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I feel like people give in to that way too much, and they just need to focus on, being positive and constructive rather than like destructive or, running it for all the time, yeah.
Hey, I agree, but I also disagree. Like, I agree in the sense that we've got to stop evaluating people at, like, individual chunks of their life and, running with that. But, like, look at what happened between us. Like, I was not that familiar with your content. I kind of remembered you from Gamergate, and then, a bunch of people in Keffel's orbit, like, when you started having conflict with her, like, I'm talking back channel, it's like, look at Destiny's Greatest Hits. Boom, 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 boom. And it's like, oh, of course this guy's a transphobe. Of course he's a racist. Of course he's horrible. Of course he's toxic. Blah, 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 blah. And that's the easy narrative for me to actually sit down and watch your stuff. There's something about my particular personality where, like you, I went from being a Republican in a religious household, and I had to think my way out of that. And there was a tendency to like eventually go through and make sure the things I believe are correct. Like that's part of my thinking, but I don't think most people do that. And I think the problem is it's like, when my group chats got leaked, like there's a narrative out there that hurts me professionally now. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And I see this with you too, right? If I'm talking to high level Democrats and I'm like, look, this is your Senate race, would you consider coming on Destiny's Stream? They Google your name, the greatest hits come up, and it's like, oh, this is not brand safe. I think it does do real damage that you can't just whistle past, right?
Sure. Yeah, I agree. It can happen, yeah. Is there anything you want to say specifically, just because I know that you're, I think, until 1 or 2, I think we've got like people scheduled that want to jump in and shit. Is there anything in particular that you want to say relating to the canvassing stuff or anything? Or I see Jessiah jumped in here, or...
Yeah, well, I just wanted to talk about like the actual goals itself. And let me pull up the actual graphic itself that we've got going on here. Just talk about what the goals are going to be for people. So right now, I think we're at about 10K right now raised. At 20K, we're going to have a really big DGG canvassing event in February. And what that's going to look like is you're going to have Progressive Victory and DGG working together. I'm going to bring out, hopefully, some politicians. I'm going to bring out other big streamers. We'll fly them in. We're going to have a really, really big canvassing event where we all get together, go out, knock on doors. I'm going to get media there. We're going to make it a national story if we can. And so I really hope people will donate so we can make that happen.
Real quick, do you want to, because a lot of people are asking this question, because we've talked about PV bankrolling a lot of the future canvassing houses and everything. Do you want to talk about why we made the decision to fundraise for this? Yeah.
Yeah, so it really comes back to like the reputational stuff that I talked about. And I'm just being honest with you, that when we first started talking about leading with your name for this house, of course, I see this, I see your Georgia work, and it's like the Democratic Party is just like, I don't know, do we really want, X candidate? Do we really want to put the bets on the party on this one person, right? There's just like a fear that's there. And this is it's not unique to you. The Democratic Party overall is kind of scared to take chances. This is a pattern I see over and over again. So the thinking is, if we start this MVP house, what is happening concurrently is Progressive Victory is getting the voter file, which, this is a 6-figure asset that we're going to have. So you're not going to have to go to, go knock on the Democratic Party's door, beg them for canvassing data, have them, basically give you their own walk list. You will be able to have this $100,000 asset, decide what demographics you want to target, go knock on their door, and there's some synergy there together. And then once we have this one house that's up, open, and running, Sejin can give me what are the stats? How many doors have we knocked on? How many new voters have we gotten signed up? I can take those stats, go take it to the powers that be in the party and be like, look, I've got a successful program here. The Biden's got all this money in the bank. The Senate Democrats have all this money in the bank. What I'm asking for is a pittance here. Can you please help us expand this program? So then it's us using our strengths together. You have the power of DGG. We've got this data infrastructure and this deeper relationship with people in the party, where we can kind of build this and really make it something where like the streaming space overall can have a really big impact for 2024.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, hitting you up with a gotcha. Anything else? Anything else you want to go over? Anything before you take off? I mean, I think you're gonna be in and out here throughout most of the day. You've got perms and everything. If you want to hop in and say anything, so yeah.
If I see something I can help with, I gotta say, don't ever say gotcha anything else to your spouse. I learned that the hard way. That did not work well in a fight. But anyway.
Wait, what does he watch my stream or?
No, I said it to Frank one time. We were having a fight, and oh my god, that hurt.
Well, I feel like, because I feel like it's a meme on my stream, but I feel like in normal conversation with an ordinary person, they're not going to hear, like, okay, well, cool, gotcha. Anything else you want to shout about? And then you're like, done. But if you're like, gotcha, anything else, Chief? Gotcha. Then obviously,
anything else? Oh, that did not go well. Anyway, so 30K, I don't know how this is going to work. So this is more of a Sejin question, but 30K, we're going to have DGG Canvassing House merch. So that's going to be really exciting. I don't know if that's going to be like, you're going to have a special lanyard to come out. So when you help us canvas, you'll have like a permanent souvenir. I don't know if it's going to be t-shirts. So that's a Sejin question. And if 50K, if we can get to 50K today, you, I believe, are going to do a live debate at the Canvas House event in February. So I'm really, really excited about that. As far as individual rewards, so if you individually donate this amount, this is what you will get. For $100, if we end up having that live debate, you will have a front row seat. You'll be sitting at the front. That's really exciting. If you donate $500, Lycan will actually jump on Zoom with you or Discord and give you a cooking lesson. I consider myself a pretty good chef. He is better, so that is definitely worth that. If you donate $750, we will have a VIP dinner at the DGG canvassing event, and you will be invited to that dinner, so you'll get to hang out with a bunch of people and hopefully some federally elected officials that we are going to invite. For $1,000, I am going to drive one of my Porsches out there. I don't know which one, if it's going to be my Cayman, my 86 911, my 2005 911, or my 2000 Boxster. But I will let you drive one of my Porsches, and we can go canvassing together, which will be a lot of fun. So, and at $5,000, you can tweet from Destiny's account, which I think has some scary implications. So I will, do you have the graphic in front of you to show on stream?
Me?
Yeah.
Let me check. If you just sent me a message on Discord, can you please resend it? Fuck me. I was closing at a message.
I sent it too.
Oh, was it? Oh, thank God. Hold on, wait. No, this wasn't you. Why would you lie to me?
No, wait, it's right here.
Fuck. No, I'm sorry. I wasn't talking to you. I was closing at a DM and somebody just sent me one right as I closed it, and I didn't see the fucking name. And they had a green bubble, and I sent it, and now I don't know what that message was. It was probably the most important message of my entire life, and now I just fucking missed it. Fuck. But sorry, let me click your link. What is this? Wait, this thing?
The graphic.
The graphic.
Yeah, scroll up just a little bit, tiny bit.
Oh, well, but it doesn't grow. They need a dynamic graphic. But I can show the graphic.
I can pass you the AI file if you want to do that, or an EPS.
There you go. I'll just throw this up here.
Sweet. But I'm trusting DGG will not dump the clutch in one of my Porsches if we go on out. So I'm trusting all DGG people already know how to drive a stick. Y'all are very talented at it, and I can trust you. So.
Yeah, okay. All right, well. Wait, Jessiah, did you want to say anything to Brianna, or because I saw you jump in here?
Oh, I was just told to be here at 2, so I've been just patiently waiting to do as instructed. Hi, Brianna.
Simp.
Hi,
Hey,
Pixie.
good to talk to you.
Hi, Christian.
All right,
Good to talk to you.
Let me respond to...
Jessiah and I are doing a bunch of cool work together now, so I'm really excited.
We are.
about
We're
that.
besties.
Nice.
I'm throwing up with my little half of the heart, and then she throws up her little half of the heart. It's like one of those bestie heart things.
Actually, before I jump off, can I hit something head on, a low level controversy?
Yeah,
that's
wait, before you do
happened?
that, can I respond to a
Yeah.
couple, because people donated money and
Yeah,
I haven't
go for
responded
it,
at
go
all.
for it.
Yeah. Little behind, but I think the real problem is bad spending habits and overspending in those generations that create the idea that they cannot afford things when it's their fault in the first place. I don't know if the spending habits of Gen Z are necessarily worse than any of the earlier generation spending habits. I'm not sure if that's true or not, although there are a couple of unique things that you can spend on today that I'm curious how much Gen Z spends. I sincerely believe, people used to make fun of lottery tickets as like a tax on stupid people. I firmly believe that has been completely replaced with DoorDash and Uber Eats. I think that it is insane, those apps, and I'm curious how much young people spend money on those apps. But I don't know. I'm curious for stuff like that. But also, I also know there's also like more stuff that you're expected to have today that you weren't expected to have 20, 30, 40 years ago. Like nowadays, you have to have a computer. I think like the whole world has recognized you need a computer, you need internet and internet access. You got to pay for. You got to have a cell phone. And it's got to be a smartphone, right? I don't even know. Do people even say smartphone anymore? Because every cell phone is a smartphone, right?
Phone at this point.
Yeah, and then you got to be paying for a phone line. These are all things like I understand depending on who you are, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but like another $30 or $40 or $50 a month payment, that takes a bite of your ass. If you're living, if you're like working class. I'll say working class, fuck middle class. I hate you middle class fuckers. But if you're a working class person, another $40, $50, $60 a month payment, that's a big bite of your paycheck, every month, every time payday rolls around. So yeah, I wonder if like the new financial expectations of people have changed a little bit. That might be the case. And then somebody said, Destin, to your point, I think considering limiting principles has become a lost art. Capital C conservatives take them too far and capital B progressives ignore them entirely. This probably adds to online tribalism. Okay, gotcha. Okay, what did you want to say?
No, too, I wanted to hit this. It's totally bad faith people. They've been, critiquing the Stream Ops team over at Progressive Victory, where, we basically have a bunch of people we work with, Jessiah being one of them that we just onboarded here, and it's like, oh, Brianna Wu's running a propaganda group over there at Progressive Victory, this telling people what to say, and I'm like, that it's so bad faith and it's so frustrating. What I see here in the space is when I worked for the Republican Party back in 2000, every single day I'd get into work and there'd be a sheet of paper. What are the talking points that we are all talking about today as a party? It'd be some stupid scandal that they were trying to gin up and do with the Democratic Party, and they would hammer and hammer and hammer it until like it hit. The lie that Al Gore said he invented the internet actually came from my office, like when we were working on that way back when. So
wait, what was that lesson you said? Yeah. The lie that came from, I got confused with the
Al Gore, do you remember when he was running for president against Bush in 2000? Mm-hmm. It was like Al Gore claimed he invented the internet.
Yeah.
But he didn't say that. He said, I took the initiative in helping fund the internet, which is 100% true. It was through ARPANET.
Gotcha. I was making sure. Okay, because I remember hearing that a long time ago, and I hate, because I was a lifelong Republican when I was 15 for my whole 50 years of life. Yeah, and I remember looking that up at a later date, and Gore actually did do a lot early on to push internet stuff. Yeah, but yeah, okay, go ahead.
But so the point is, like, what Progressive Victory is doing is, I don't think there's any. I think every streamer out there is trying to do their own thing. And I don't think there's an organization here showing like support and leadership and giving people a place to get plugged into to make a good difference. So I'll give you a really concrete example. Let's say if ImReallyImportant wants to go out to the RNC and ask their candidates some questions and go around out there, we can just write him a check to go do that content because we believe in it and it's on mission. And people like Jessiah, we work with him to just bring him into our Stream Ops team, and he gets to talk to other creators and we figure out what stories we think matter and we all hit that. It's not like we're not paying anyone to produce any particular content. We're just a group to let people collaborate together. It's really frustrating.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at my channel at all, I've been pretty consistent for months now. But basically, my entire thesis is just being anti-GOP, unapologetically so, and that hasn't changed, and it just so happens to align with what PV is looking to do, so it's just a perfect fit.
Yeah, it's obvious. But anyway, I'll jump off, let other people talk. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. Obviously, you can come on whenever throughout the day. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I also heard, did I hear recently that you're starting, you took Vyvanse or whatever, and it's like made a material impact on your focus and everything?
Yeah, it's been a life changer. I'll probably, at some point in the future, I'm probably going to break down and start crying because I should have taken this 10 years ago. Or at the very least, I had all the information that I needed when I put Nathan on stimulants when he was like 6 or 7, yeah. And I can't believe I didn't start these sooner. There was no excuse.
I heard about it after the fact, and I was like, man, maybe I need to go take a look at it, because sometimes I feel like my ability to pay attention to shit is like, it's different. Like I can't tell you the last time I finished like an episode of a TV show without having like my phone in my hand and scrolling at the same time. And, you know, like even reading articles and stuff, it's challenging, like to literally go from start to finish. Sometimes I skip ahead to see what the trajectory is, and then I go back and then I pull up a different article. Like completing tasks from start to finish. So I can't even play video games anymore. Like, it's so challenging to go from one thing to the next and doing it in a thorough fashion. So maybe I have like ADHD or something.
It's hard to tell for ADHD because like there are so many symptoms that can overlap with like kind of ordinary behavior too. So it's hard to tell like, is this actually a thing or am I like mind fucking myself or so? Yeah. It's definitely worth it to go talk to somebody or take tests or figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely do that. Well, how's everybody else? What's going on? What's popping, as the kids say?
How are you? Wait, are you sick? Were you sick?
Yeah. So like I've been like wrestling with, every time I'm fucking on the stream, and definitely every time I'm on the stream with Sejin, I'm like deathly ill. So I'm blaming him. He's like some sort of like, I don't know, voodoo curse on me.
True.
Or I'm going through puberty again. One of the two. Wait, what?
I'm not even sick. Yeah. I don't know, man. My voodoo doll can't even get you contagious.
Oh, actually, wait a second. I'm sorry. Wait, did we ever talk about your health stuff publicly, or was this only privately, Sejin? I'm sorry, that was super
inappropriate. We talked about it publicly.
We did talk about. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't have said
shit.
that.
Well, my sphincter just clenched there too, because I'm like, wait, is something going on? I just stumbled into.
Yeah, wait, Sejin, you had a big health thing come up a while ago. Are you like all clear on that, or are you dying, or what's?
Basically, like it gave me. I don't know. I had asthma when I was a kid, and it gave me asthma again. So.
Huh. But everything is like okay-ish now, or?
Yeah, I'm alive, so we're okay.
Wait, wasn't this all triggered by the canvassing thing in Georgia?
Yep.
Holy shit. Damn. And yet you came back for seconds. You decided that you're still going to help Steven out with this. Like, good for you. You're glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
Look, you're going to be right there next to me, so you and me together, buddy.
I'm going to be like masked up in like one of those fucking like, you know, hermetically sealed bubbles, stuff like that, just rolling around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pixie, would you stop talking? You're like dominating the conversation. Nobody can get a word in edgewise.
I know. I can't help myself. I just love talking all the time and inserting myself when I don't need to be inserted. I'm so sorry, Jessiah. I think you should actually talk some more.
I will. I will definitely carry this Wait, did you fight Michael Knowles recently too?
No, I didn't.
Wait, did somebody make that up? I thought I read that somewhere. I thought that happened.
I was supposed to talk to Michael Knowles, and he apparently had a last-second movie premiere for fucking the Daily Wire trans, you know, anti-trans propaganda, whatever. So I ended up talking to Andrew Wilson instead. That's what ended up happening.
To who?
Fuck my life.
Andrew Wilson, Big Papa Fash.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know who it is. Okay. Well, that's disappointing. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. They're going to reschedule. And he was like, oh, I'll try to get you on my schedule. So I just really want to talk to Mike. I mean, Andrew was surprisingly better than I thought it was going to be, because I feel like in panels, usually he just like kind of like yells people down. But he was actually kind of listening this time, I think. At least that's how I felt. So it was better than I thought.
That's interesting if he's pivoting. Andrew has the potential to do, like he's verbally adept, right? He's very good at navigating live conversations and making people feel dumb and all that. If he can tone it back a little bit, I think he actually could do decently, but he has to be able to turn it down a bit. But so if he is starting to do that, that's good for, I mean, I hate him. I hope he doesn't and his career crashes and burns. But if he does do that, that's good for him. That's good for his career, yeah.
Well, it's just a red pill, what is it? It's like a formula we see like super often or over and over again, that even though these people are, because I'm pretty sure he's like a Christo nationalist or whatever, but then they go on these like red pill podcasts and they kind of like soothe their audience. I don't know what other word to say, even though it's like, no, like your ideals are fundamentally different. I guess it's just like part of the grift or part of trying to expand your audience, but it's like, you should hate each other, you know, theoretically speaking. Like, you know, these are not the ideals that you are trying to repeat to your audience. What the fuck?
You mean in terms of like conservative people going on these red pill shows or whatever?
Yeah, basically the tradcons like buddying up with the red pillars, even though like one is saying like, you know, you should fuck around, never settle, basically give in to whatever inhibition you want. And the other one's like, no, you should follow Jesus.
Yeah, but one of the things that people, I think, I'm generalizing here, maybe it's not true, I think, one of the things that people on the right do is they seem to get along better with people that they disagree with. So they have they can reach wider audiences and they can do all of this shit. Whereas people on the left are far more into kind of the purity testing stuff to where if we disagree even slightly, I'll never even share a fucking Discord with you without trying to get all your shit banned. I think that's probably a strength of some of the right-leaning people. Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems like they even avoid disagreeing. I feel like there was more than one time where it's okay, well, this is obviously not a TradCon value, or the other way around where this is not red pill value, but they'll just never even touch it there or go there. But maybe I'm just biased. Maybe what is it? They're just putting solidarity because they're closer to each other than they are to me, so they're just trying to keep that front. I don't know.
Have you ever tried? Do you try just asking that on the show? Hey, isn't this not a conservative value?
Yeah, no, I should do that. I haven't done that in any recent shows or anything like that. But to be fair, I've started going less and less on them because I feel every time I go, I want to kill myself a little bit more every time. Jesus. So I'm
yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see that in the political sphere, though, because historically, elected Republicans in particular, until the Trump era, were always the expression was always Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line. And then in the Trump era, you kind of have a reversal of that in some ways. Now, Mike Johnson, who is, devoutly religious, and apparently in 2015, he publicly said that Trump would be an awful candidate because, of course, he was a serial philanderer and a narcissist and all the things. Now he's enthusiastically supporting Trump because he realizes it's politically efficacious. And yet, in terms of Congress, the House of Representatives, now you're starting to see elected, God damn, you see elected Republicans start to squabble over these petty disagreements. Right now, they can't get anything done, even though they nominally have the majority. They're tripping over themselves over relatively petty things. So it's interesting to see simultaneously they're doing some of the things that you're describing in the red pill community, where they're ignoring disagreements that you would think are mutually exclusive in some areas, and then in other areas they just can't help but fight each other over shit that they should be able to set aside. So,
do you feel Trump is basically going to get the nomination?
No question. No shot. I mean, absolutely. The only thing that would keep him off the ballot in the first place is if any of these 14th Amendment challenges were successful. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which disqualifies insurrectionists from holding office. And so far they've all failed. All the other shit will seems to be galvanizing support, but it'll probably cripple him in the general election. There have been polls that have been getting everybody's attention that Trump kicking Biden's ass in the polls, but some of them have critical caveats, one saying that they prefer Trump in the general, but if Trump is convicted of any of the crimes for which he's been indicted, a statistically significant majority or section will switch their votes to Biden. So I think he'll win the primary, and I think if he's convicted in any of the crimes, unless something changes, I think it'll pull enough away from Trump to get Biden the win. But I don't know. I mean, I never thought he'd win the 2016 election, so who the fuck knows?
Yeah, I want to say an ideal fantasy land or whatever for the Republican Party. Let's say Trump decides to pull out his nomination. He doesn't want to keep going. Do you actually think any other Republican stands a chance against Biden, or do you think it's pretty set in stone because of the Republicans party's inefficiency basically, or inability to get its shit together right now? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I mean, and maybe Sejin wants to weigh in on that, but I've seen, to whatever extent you value polls, there's polls that indicate that basically any of the other Republican nominees at the current state would beat Biden if they had the nomination. So it's almost like a rock, paper, scissors thing. Trump beats them, but Trump stands the best chance of losing to Biden, but Biden stands the best chance of losing to Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis or Chris Christie or Vivek Ram. So it's kind of strange. If he were not the nominee, I think Biden would be in even more hot water because none of these nominees have Trump's baggage.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. But one thing I think that we don't consider is the Republican voting base, if Trump isn't the nominee, might just shrink 20%. I have no idea how the Republican Party would look without Trump.
Do you know he's like out there? He said at a rally in like Iowa 2 weeks ago. It's fucking hilarious. He's like, we have plenty of voters. You all don't need to worry about voting at all. Just keep an eye on those Democrat voters. He was like actively telling people not to vote, which is basically what he did in 2020 when he told his base not to avail themselves of like mail-in and absentee ballots. So like Donald Trump he's in the best position to maximize Republican voter turnout, like what you say, Christian. But at the same time, he's like actively discouraging people from voting for whatever reason. It's so strange. But yeah, I think like there'd be a lot less excitement if he's not on the ballot.
I think I truly do think that Trump has kind of destroyed the Republican Party. I don't know what it's going to look like after Trump, and I don't know how some of these normal Trump voters wander their way back to the Republican establishment. Like it's like Tea Party on crack. And the Tea Party was already, am I making this up? Did the Freedom Caucus come from the Tea Party?
Yeah, they're kind of like the second iteration of it.
Yeah, like the Tea Party was already somewhat obstructionist to the Republicans. I don't know where the Trump movement goes after, but yeah, all we can do is wait and see. Real quick, yeah. Do you guys have important stuff you want to say, or because I got a couple people that want to come in and have some foreign international law stuff?
Well, what I was just going to say real quick, because we haven't had a chance to talk about it, the 14th Amendment stuff, you know, you and I and Pisco were in that debate. I can't even remember with who, but I think it was just basically us three versus that one Trump, Lauren something. Anyway, the bottom line is, so I don't know if you know this, but in Colorado, they recently had a court case about whether or not Trump is an insurrectionist and whether or not he's disqualified. So get this, Stephen. The judge found, as a matter of legal fact, and I'll send you the link, that Donald Trump is an insurrectionist. That's no longer a matter of opinion. That is in the eyes of the court. In a state court, to be fair, right? Was it a state Supreme Court or was it a state court? Did this make it up to the... it was a Colorado district court, and I think it's currently being appealed to the Colorado Supreme Court. But still, I mean, it's a matter of court law, period. But it's being appealed right now. But here's the funny thing. So she simultaneously found that Trump is an insurrectionist. He engaged in insurrection. But he's not. He's not disqualified
from running for president. Yeah, I saw this. Yeah, I saw this.
Is that not insane? Because the presidency, it may not be covered. Now you like to steel man people's, like the opposition's argument. Do you think you could steel man the argument that the framers wanted to basically keep everybody out of elected office because they couldn't be trusted with that power if they were an insurrectionist, except the highest office with the most power?
This is how I feel philosophically about this, okay? This is how I feel philosophically, and I could very easily be argued. I'm sitting on a 50-50 fence pole here. I could be easily pushed to one side or the other, okay? I am uncomfortable with almost any rail that you put on who you can elect as a leader, because for a democracy to work, the people have to be informed enough to make good choices about their leadership. So it feels weird to say, like, to be the president of the United States, you have to be 35 years old. Why do we have that restriction? Do we think that the American public would vote a 15-year-old as president? No. Is it possible there could be a 33 or 34-year-old that would be qualified to be president, but now we can't because of the restriction? Like, do we not trust the people because we trust our public to make a lot of decisions at a lot of different levels? Arguably more than most other countries on the planet, I think. We've got our democracy and the way that we've spread things out and localized things is insane. So when you talk about, like, you know, the House of Representatives kicking out, was it Santos? Or when you talk about, like, the president shouldn't be able to run because of these charges, like, well, what if people want him to run? What if, I'm generally in a democratic society where we're entrusting people with the awesome power to vote for leaders. I generally want there to be as few restrictions on who they can vote for as possible, because it truly is what the people want. That's what I would say, broadly speaking.
That's all I had.
Okay.
Quick note on that. Something I've been really thinking about and frustrated with lately is that I think our ability to select leaders has been, like, compromised on the left side of the aisle. You mentioned this earlier, Jessiah, but you said, like, fall in love is Democrat and then fall in line is Republican. And it kind of makes no sense to me that on the left, our leaders have to, like, pander to literally everybody to get their votes, whereas on the right, it's kind of like default. If you're the nominee, you get the vote. I understand that, like, there's an aspect to having to earn the vote, and I know, Dustin, your position is that a politician's job is to get reelected and win elections. But philosophically, when selecting a leader, a leader is someone that does things. Like, it's not the person that convinces you to follow them. It's the person that is already doing the thing, and then you follow them doing that thing. But yeah, I'm been thinking about that a lot recently. So,
well, I mean, what Pixie or Steven's thoughts are on this, but I mean, like right now, one of the criticisms is that actually, when it comes to the Democrats, right now, the argument is from people is that it's more of a coronation, that it's just Biden is, I think the phrase they use is a coronation, where Biden is just the presumptive nominee, and the
well, he is the presumptive nominee. He's the
no, he is. But I mean, the criticism is that the DNC structure should bend over backwards to accommodate him, rather than allow like a really competitive primary. I mean, whatever the criticism is there, to me, the bigger problem, Sejin, isn't, when you start to say like that Democrats have to appeal to get the vote. For me, the frustrating thing is the double standard. And there was a great article written by, I'll send you the link, but this idea that if you look at every publication about politics, it's always, even on the mainstream media, it's like what the Democrats don't understand about Republicans. And there's always like a documentary about like, the liberal elite, they just don't understand the Trump supporter. And yet, what's funny is there's never that sort of introspection on the right. Fox News never does a documentary, like a good faith documentary, like why is Donald Trump just not accessing Biden voters? What are Republicans missing? What are they going to do to appeal to Democrats? And to me, that's the really interesting like asymmetry there. Like, it's kind of like rural places versus city places. Like rural America is considered real America, salt of the earth and all these things. And like people in the cities, they're just like detached and disaffected, even though like they constitute the majority of the population. That asymmetry, I think, is also working against us in the electorate. It's because it just grades the GOP on a curve. They're the normal ones. People have to move to them. They don't need to meet anybody in the middle. They don't need to understand the opposition. It's Democrats who have to appeal to a wider audience, not just the left, but also
I think Democrats do have to, though. I was trying, as you said that, I want to fight back against some points. So I start running through a bunch of examples in my mind. But I think you're largely right, and it's without justification. So I'm trying to think like, well, the people on the left are very like better than you and like snooty and everything. But like the people on the right do that too with religion, right? Oh, you are going to hell. You're degenerate. You're blah blah blah. So like, they absolutely. And then like, well, the people on the left like try to censor shit and everything. And it's like, bro, I know that like maybe Gen Z doesn't know about Republican censorship, but like, bro, I remember Republicans throwing themselves off the Empire State Building en masse, thousands committing suicide because Starbucks put Happy Holidays on their fucking cups instead of Merry Christmas, right?
Christmas. Yeah. The war on Christmas.
Yeah, the war on Christmas. Like, bro, and you could tell a conservative. They'd be like, somebody be like, Happy Holidays, and be like, Merry Christmas. And like, okay, we get it, Chief. You're mad, okay? And then like, yeah, well, maybe people just act like they're better than you. It's like, okay, but I also listened to Rush Limbaugh. He acted like he was better than. He would say all these sorts of, or Michael Savage,
or even Ben Shapiro, who you'll be arguing against. Here, I mean, I know he's like toned it down, but yeah.
I actually think, and I'm becoming more and more structure pilled on this. I think 50-50 opinion. I think that the reason why Democrats have to spend so much time appealing to the center and trying to win over moderates and blah, 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 is just because Democrats have to work against so much structural disadvantage due to the way that we divide the voting shit up in the country, right? Like no, I don't want to say gerrymander, because gerrymander's not bad, but just like the fact that like the Senate exists. This gives a disproportionate amount of power to smaller states that tend to be more conservative or rural, right? Or the House of Representatives. Even the House of Representatives gives more power to smaller states because of the way we divide up
it is.
Representatives,
also,
right?
And it's also
the president of the United States. Also, well, I don't want to say just gerrymander because there's no right way to gerrymander, and anybody that pretends otherwise is wrong. There's no right way.
And Democrats also gerrymander too. To
everybody, like you have to. It's very difficult to draw. If you draw quote unquote the most fair districts you can, it would over Democrats hardcore. So gerrymandering is always going to happen. It's a difficult decision. But structurally, Democrats are at a huge disadvantage against Republicans. And I think that might be the reason why there's always so much pressure on Democrats to try to reach out more and appeal to moderates, because Republicans have so much structural advantage working in their favor in our electoral system.
Well, and then
I think also, not just structurally, but I also think just like inherently within like each ideology, I think conservators, like being conservative is a much easier sell in a way. It's basically saying like, oh, we should keep things how they are, or we should go back to a time where things was better, right? Like imagine nostalgia past that doesn't really exist. And I think that's a lot easier for people to like swallow and accept and even like than like, oh, like let's try this like scary new program that hasn't been tried before or has been tried but not here, guys. I promise this is gonna turn out well.
Nah, so I reject that. I don't think it's true. I think both ideologies have their pitfalls that are easy. For Republicans, it's always like things used to be so much better, blah 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 blah. And for like the new wave, at least of like progressives and everything, it's like, oh, America bad, blah blah blah. I guess maybe that doesn't speak to the wider like mid-left, but then they're probably separated on a bunch of like social issues and everything, where they're just like, I support abortion, or I support LGBT rights, or I support this type of thing. Like I feel like I don't necessarily buy this argument anymore that like it's so hard to be liberal because they're all so intelligent and know all of their policies in and out and blah blah blah.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that like when it comes to like sending a message out, I think that there is something like intrinsically more comforting of like, hey, like things are good right now for you, or they were better in the past, like let's get to that, versus like, oh no, like we have to like change these structures. There's just something more like comforting in the idea, but maybe that's just my personal
well, no, I actually agree. I think like that's where it's so frustrating, because it's like the right, or if we're going to call, because, and Steven's made this point too, I don't know if we can even call the current iteration of the Republican Party quote unquote conservative. Like,
of course not.
Yeah, but I'm just going to say the right and like that whole block in general, they are advantaged structurally, not just from base philosophy, Pixie, like you're saying, like it's easier to sell, keep things the way they are as opposed to risky change. But then it like trickles down to all the structural stuff that Steven was talking about. You have the Electoral College, you have the Senate, you have the House, you have the media landscape. And that's the thing.
Hey, we can hear you. Hold on. Oh, sorry, keep going. Say. Yeah, wait, hold on.
Yeah, and so like, all of these things like generally favor the right. And then the other thing, when I popped in, Steven had an article up about the economy, and I don't know what the hell you guys were talking about because I didn't get the context. But the one thing I was curious on for all of you, if you had an opinion on this, is obviously like right now, the polling is not good for Biden on the economy, even though like macroeconomic indicators like GDP growth and unemployment and all these things are pretty positive. And so right now there's a split. Like the Pod Save America guys have one position, other people have a different position, which is part of it is a perception issue that the quote unquote mainstream media and the quote unquote progressive media don't do a good job. And there's actually some evidence to support this, that they don't do a good enough job of conveying the facts. They think like facts speak for themselves. As long as Biden just ducks his head down and chugs along.
Oh yeah, you made this point in the past, because Trump would go around constantly being like, African-American unemployment is lowest than it ever has been. African-American unemployment. Like, yeah, they would preach their wins over and over again. But it feels like, yeah, I think I read this article you're referring to. It was a while ago, that the Democratic establishment has a really hard time like celebrating their victories, so they just don't talk much about it. Whereas like Trump will literally be out here saying shit like, "We built the wall." And it's like, no, you didn't. What? Yeah.
Well, let me give you. I guess my thing is like, I've also heard the alternative. So like the Pod Save. Are you familiar with Pod Save America, right?
Yep.
Okay, those guys are pretty sharp too. And what was interesting is most of them have maintained the position that you can't argue with people's feelings. That sure, there's a misalignment right now between feelings and facts on the economy. The macroeconomic and economic indicators say one thing, feelings say another thing.
Yep.
But it's a waste of time to try to change their feelings on it. And I don't know if I buy that, because I also
I feel like their feelings are what are dictating their feeling about the economy, but they're getting their feelings from somebody else, whatever pundits you make, whatever pundits they listen to. Yeah. Sorry, apparently Gisticle made that point, not Jessiah. Yeah.
So you would agree then that it is actually worth, I mean, doing it, I'm sure, very carefully and rhetorically effectively, but it is worth, defending Biden's accomplishments on this, even if it's in the face of perception that runs to the contrary.
Yeah, I wish I could go back and find. I read it was a study or a paper or something a long time ago that showed that like people's opinions on how the economy was doing like very closely tracked the media that they consumed. And it was like the biggest predictor, more than any other economic indicator, of how they felt about the economy. And I wish I could find that. Okay, just maybe I'm making that up. I don't know. Somebody can.
No, I think I read something by Paul Krugman, who's like an economist.
No, this was like something I read like 5 or 6 years ago, I think. Also, a quick thing to Pixie's point, for what you were saying about people feel nostalgia about the past or blah, blah, blah. On that point, I actually do agree with that. I think you're correct on that. Because I remember seeing a lot of that where if you go to any of the old like Soviet states or whatever, and you ask them like, oh, how was life back in the Soviet Union? People almost always rate life as being better 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, especially old people. But there's a whole bunch of writing speculating on like why people think that is. Obviously, when you're old, life kind of sucks. You've got chronic pain. You're not like young. You're not going out and, partying and blah, blah, blah. There might be a whole bunch of reasons for that. And then people tend to selectively remember things based on whatever. So that could be the case that like, people just, don't you want things to be how they used to be? And everybody will think like, yeah, I kind of do. And it's like, do you though? Really? You don't want any more Netflix? You don't want any more cell phones? You don't want any more or whatever the 50 million modern amenities that you've like grown accustomed to? But maybe, who knows?
All right, that's all I had.
Okay. I love you, babe.
Good chatting with you all.
Yeah, hop in later if you want. Be careful.
See you, buddy. Bye.
We were talking about George Santos. Have you been following his saga?
Didn't the House just literally vote to like actually remove him from everything?
Yep. 6th person in our nation's history to get kicked out of the House.
Damn. What does that mean by kicked out of the House? He can't like vote anymore, or?
He's gone. He's not a member of Congress. It's a vacancy in New York's 3rd congressional district. They don't have a representative right now.
And that's just voted on by the House of Representatives?
The Constitution gives the House and the Senate the ability to kick people out based on their own rules. So 2/3 majority is what the rule is, and they had it.
Damn, 2/3. So even, geez.
And
wow,
it was brought forward by the Republicans. They're the ones who wanted to kick him out to cuck themselves, which is hilarious. It's a whole drama.
Well, damn.
Yeah, so this is the 3rd time they voted on kicking him out. He has survived the previous 2, and he thought he would survive this one. And honestly, it was looking like it was coming down to the wire. So the Ethics Committee just concluded their investigation. There's a committee in the House that looks into, internal matters. They put out a report that was pretty damning. That's where the OnlyFans details came out. Did you hear about that? That he subbed the OnlyFans?
I saw like tweets about it. I don't know how much of it was true, but yeah, geez.
Well, it was in the Ethics Committee report from the House done by the Republicans, and they're treated with a lot of respect, and they decided to include that salacious detail, so it must be true, though he denies it, of course. But they concluded he stole money. Basically his scam that they were pissed off is he took people's credit card numbers that donated legitimately and just charged them more money than they agreed on and used it for his personal funds. I mean, it was just brazen. This is one of those guys who is a perennial candidate, never thinks he's going to win, and lives the high life off of being a losing candidate. There's tons of these guys, like that prick Shahid Buttar that runs against Pelosi every time.
You say tons of these guys, but Santos was pretty unique in his brazenness.
He took it to a whole other level.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, when I first heard about that guy like a year or 2 or whatever ago, I thought that I thought he got kicked out immediately. I didn't know he was still in Congress for like years after. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, when he got confronted about the Jew thing, and he's like, well, I'm Jewish or whatever. But just like there were so many crazy things from this guy. I was like, Jesus, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, classic. He'll be remembered forever for the Jew-ish thing. That is so funny. But so everybody, like, he survived 2 previous votes to expel him because the Ethics Committee was working on an investigation, and the DOJ obviously has 23 charges against him too. But the Ethics Committee finally finished or put out a report. It was damning as hell. And then the chairman of the Ethics Committee, a guy named Michael Guest, Republican, he put forward the resolution to kick him out. So that carried a lot of weight. And then Congress came back from their Thanksgiving break this week, and they moved it forward, and enough people were on board to kick him out. Now, there was a last-ditch effort. Literally an hour and a half before the vote, the speaker, Mike Johnson, this NPC that took over from McCarthy, he tried to save him and said, me, along with the other leadership, are going to vote no. And there was some drama. People started shifting and they started moving. And then, even on top of that, a Republican put out an email, a guy named Max Miller, I think he's from Ohio. He put out an email saying, George Santos ripped me and my mom off personally. He took our credit cards info and he charged us more. So he stole from his own colleagues, and that seemed to be the final straw for the Republicans, and so they booted him. Now they're down to a 3-seat majority.
Yeah, Jesus.
And they may be down to a 1-seat majority at some point. So there's rumors that Kevin McCarthy might resign. I don't blame him. I mean, how do you go from speaker to just being... Yeah, how do you go from speaker to just being a rank-and-file chump, you know?
Does McCarthy, would his seat be taken by a Democrat?
No, it's in Bakersfield, which is like... murder capital of California, super red. Mm-hmm. So, but it'll be vacant for a while. I don't know what the rules are. Every state has their own rules. So, like with George Santos's seat, the governor, there's no like, the governor has to proclaim in 10 days from the vacancy when an election will be, and the election has to be within 80 days. So we're looking at like 90 days from now for an election. And the interesting thing is the county chairs for the Democrats and the Republicans will pick a candidate. There's no primary. Think about how like corrupt that could be to pick somebody to run for your team.
Yeah.
So in California, there's a process. I haven't looked it up, but if Kevin McCarthy steps down, then there'll be a special election to replace him as well. But that means there'll be a vacancy for a while. Then there's a third guy who is a Republican who's stepping down early next year. So the Republicans might be down to 219 seats, like a 1-seat majority. And if they can barely govern with what they've got now, can you imagine if they're that thin of a majority?
Yeah, although I don't know if it matters that much now, right? Like, it's not like we're about to start like ramming legislation through the House or something, right?
That's true. They're not going to pass anything, but there are some must-pass things. Like the budget has only been extended until the middle of January, February. That's going to be a big fight.
Yeah.
There are also are some big bills, like the Farm Bill. Every 5 years, we have this big bill that determines the future of agriculture in America. That has to pass by the end of the year. There is the renewing of the FISA program. So there's a few things they have to deal with.
Yeah.
But they're screwed, man.
Yeah. Let's see. What else besides the Santos stuff? Has anything gone on big politically, nationally?
Well, you should check out that debate versus Newsom and DeSantis. Any interest in watching that from Thursday?
DeSantis just makes me shut my brain off. I can't stand listening to that guy or anything to do with that guy. He is so uninspiring. I hate him. Do you think it's worth watching, or what are they even debating over? Is it just like a general debate? Like,
well, it was billed as blue versus red states, and Gavin Newsom is a brilliant debater. He watches Fox News all day. He knows how to rebut all their talking points. So if you want to see like a real energetic and like the debate we all want to see, not Trump versus Biden, then I would check it out because it was pretty fun. We watched it, and it's about an hour and a half. It was moderated by Sean Hannity. Obviously, it's 2v1. So, but Gavin Newsom does a brilliant job responding to all these right-wing talking points.
Well, that's good. Cool.
I think it's worth watching.
What do you make of, me and Brianna talked about this earlier. I'm kind of curious what you think about this. What do you feel about the fact that Biden's approval is like so low for like no good reason, but that it also doesn't seem to be affecting like other Democrats in their elections? Like, what is your like feeling on that? Does this matter, or?
I don't think it matters. First of all, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama had similar approval ratings this time, a year before their elections, and they won re-election. Number two, we've done really well with Biden and his shitty approval ratings. Look at the midterms. He was in the same approval ratings. We did fantastically. Look at the elections 3 weeks ago in Ohio, Kentucky, and Virginia. We did very well, exceeded expectations, and that's with Biden's shitty approval ratings. Also with people calling him Genocide Joe and all the Israel stuff. He's gonna lose because of Israel. I don't think so. So to me, it's just feelings. It's how people feel. I think people will vote for Democrat policies, and the polls just reflect how they feel about Biden. But in the end, they're gonna vote for the Democrat. So I don't think it means anything. The other thing is, 4 national polls came out this week that had Biden up, and nobody talked about them at all. And they were legitimate polls. Nobody talked about them. But every time Biden's down to Trump, they talk about it. I understand the drama. I get it. And finally, I'll say that the Republicans are highly engaged in their primary. They're voting in less than 50 days in Iowa. So they're really engaged. They're interested. They're following. They're seeing positive things about Trump. He's spending a lot of money. There's debates, all that. Whereas on our side, we're not spending any money. Biden's going to spend $15 billion over the next year. He's going to be on TikTok. He's going to have all sorts of things happen. He's going to reschedule marijuana.
Isn't that like dramatically more than... I thought that like... My scale, maybe. I thought between like Hillary and Trump, but collectively between the both, wasn't there less than $10 billion spent between both of them? Am I crazy?
I'm pretty sure it was $14 billion spent in 2020 by the Democrats.
How much money spent in 2020? Maybe I'm just thinking of like Hillary's PAC or something, presidential elections or something like that.
In 2016, I want to say it was 3.9 versus 1.3.
Gotcha.
Billion.
In 2020, it was 14.4 billion spent altogether. Okay,
Ooh.
Maybe I'm not like. Yeah, maybe the numbers I was doing was just for Hillary's PAC or something, I guess. But okay, gotcha. What do you want, Justigal?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think if you judge Biden's approval and how it's affecting votes by midterm elections or any election where Trump's not on the ballot, it's completely Like it's not indicative of anything. A lot of pollsters realize and have pointed out that Trump needs to be on the ballot for the Republican voter base to be activated.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
well, but that's not even like, wait, hold on. That's not even a great argument, though.
Yeah,
no?
come
Because,
on.
Wait.
Like,
Hold on,
yeah.
wait.
What do you mean it's
Historically,
not a great argument?
hasn't Trump had problems picking candidates that end up losing in like midterms and shit? Wasn't that a big issue with Trump, that he wasn't picking good candidates?
Yeah, he'll only endorse candidates who are retards and will like completely align themselves with him.
Yeah, so it seems like Trump just being on the ballot.
Yeah, when you control for the incumbency, like when Trump deviates from the incumbent candidates and just goes based on his vibes, he has a disproportionate loss record for endorsements.
Yeah, he's not good at endorsing people. I'm saying Trump needs to be on the ballot himself to get his base to go vote.
Huh.
So presidential elections.
Okay, but he still lost in 2020.
He did.
So what's the point?
He had really shitty approval ratings, and now Biden has really shitty approval ratings. That's the point.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it.
Well, but hold on. Wait. Let's tease that a little bit more, because you said it's to activate his base. And then you said Trump had really shitty approval ratings in that election. He didn't with Republicans, though, right? I thought his approval ratings like never dipped behind,
and he got
like,
the
93%.
second most votes of any candidate ever.
Yeah.
But he's also really unpopular with a lot of the country.
But do you think, is he going to get more or less popular between then and now with the rest of the country?
I'm saying that, so we can talk about the economic anxiety stuff, but yeah, as people, it's just who's the president. My life feels shittier. Who's the president?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't disagree on that. But I mean, look at the midterm election results. History says that the party in the White House gets its ass kicked, and we dominated.
Yeah, and I'm saying that, at least from what I've seen from Nate Silver and a couple other people, that is entirely based on Trump not being on the ballot and the populist wing of the Republican Party not giving a shit about any election where he's not on the ballot, which is really bad for them long term, probably.
Yeah, I've seen some commentary too to support what you're saying. Basically, the idea is that more Republicans will turn out to vote when Trump's name is on the ballot, which will help them. But what's interesting is what IRI was talking about earlier. The four reputable polls that came out that were like, one was YouGov, the other one was like the Morning Consult, got absolutely no airwave, no attention whatsoever. And it was, I think the guy's name is Matthew Iglesias, that kind of liberal data cruncher for politics. He pointed out that he firmly believes this because news outlets, even the liberal media, they have a vested like fiduciary incentive to hyperfixate on Biden's negativity because Trump is better for their bottom line. So like when Trump's bet.
Wait, who's making this argument?
Matthew Iglesias.
Okay, this sounds like a stretch, but okay.
Okay, I'll send you a link. Hang on. You guys keep talking. I'll send you a link that way.
I'm not saying I don't believe that he didn't say it, but like the idea that like the media companies want Trump to win because he's better for their electorally, so they're going to try to influence it. I think there's too many different people involved in these media companies for that to ever be the case. That like all these people are like, God, I hate Trump so much, but like we need him to win so that we can have better ratings. I could see that in like a 2-person company, but like in a company with hundreds or thousands of employees, no shot are those decisions ever being made.
Well, to be clear, no one here, Iglesias isn't. I'm certainly not like alleging any sort of like grand conspiracy where they're just deliberately not talking Biden's positivity in order to get Trump reelected, but that there's like an alignment here. Basically, sensationalism sells in the mainstream media.
Yes.
They're not ideologically driven the way that Fox News and Newsmax and OAN are. Fox News, its business model is to jerk off the Republicans no matter what. They're ideologically driven, whereas the mainstream media is driven by sensationalism. They'll throw Biden under the bus in a heartbeat if it generates clicks.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. When you talk about it in that perspective, I agree 100%. And it could be the way that when Trump does good and doomerism shit happens that they'll support. Okay,
yes.
If it's because they're just chasing, they're chasing like the sensational sign, I agree. But the whole idea of like, we need Trump to win, so we're going to cover him more, blah, 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 that would be insane.
No,
but I agree with what you're saying now. I understand now. Okay, 100%.
If I could just say, I love both of y'all. I think this is a lot of cope, like just assuming that the polls don't matter and we're going to be fine. Yeah, I've got reasons for believing this, but just I want to go back to 2016 where everybody was like, look, it's fine. Hillary's going to do great. And what I was thinking the entire time is just from my experience, like spending so much time as a Republican, I'm like, y'all have no idea how popular these ideas that Trump is talking about how explosive this is in the party. There are people that have wanted to hear this stuff their whole life. Y'all are really undercounting this. And this is specifically why I don't agree with you. So I think the reason we've done fine with the midterms and these special elections is if you look at the polling, a generic Democrat does test better than a generic Republican, and a generic Democrat does better against certain Republican candidates. But a generic Democrat is not going to be on the ballot. It's Biden himself. And I think you're also really underestimating the amount of propaganda that's out there to tell the American people that Biden is responsible for high gas prices, Biden is responsible for inflation. I recently drove all the way from Massachusetts to Florida, and I was stunned at every single gas station I went to. Someone had stuck like little Biden stickers right next to every single one of the price signs with him looking at it and going, I did that. Yeah. So yeah. I respect where y'all are coming from. I hope you're right. I think that this is cope, and I think we're really going to have to work hard to win this election, frankly.
Well, that's why I want to be clear. So if you look at my content at all, I'm actually with you. I don't disregard the polls, because if you look even for the midterms, IRI was right on the predictions on the midterms. I was pure pessimistic. But actually, they've done postmortems on the polling after the midterms, and they found that actually in aggregate, a lot of the polling for both the 2022 midterms and like these 2023 off-year elections were relatively accurate. Like, for example, I'm from Kentucky. I don't live there anymore, but Governor Beshear was favored to beat Daniel Cameron. Now, he exceeded expectations. I think he won by like a 5-point margin. But the polling, I think when you throw the polling out, it's not good, right? But the polling is also a snapshot in time. To IRI's point, it's a year out. So if you look at my content, when Biden gets a bad poll, I tell my audience, as small as it is, to take it seriously. You can't just pretend it doesn't exist. Yeah. But you also shouldn't be like walking towards the precipice because we have a year to change it. And IRI also brought up a good point, again, which is those 4 national polls, which have Biden now ahead, and nobody's talking about them. Right now, public perception's a bit fickle, which means it's persuadable. So I'm with you, and I don't know to what extent IRI is trying to, like, I don't think he's necessarily saying disregard the polls. I think he's just saying we're a year out, and there's time for things to change. But am I wrong, IRI?
I'm taking a firm position that I don't care about the polls. It's nonsense. It's junk science. It's a year out. People have no idea what's going on. They're not paying attention. All they see are negative videos of Biden falling down, or they hear from Fox News that Biden's responsible for this and that. We are a year away from the election. These polls mean nothing. And for anyone to get down about them, I think is ridiculous. No disrespect, Brianna. I know where you're coming from. Yeah. But I just think it's crazy. It's just as crazy as these morons who are out there, and not calling you a moron, these morons who are out there saying, I'm not voting for Joe Biden a year from now because of Gaza. Get the hell out of here. They have no idea what they're up for over the next year, and all the things that are going to come out of Trump's mouth, and all the good things from Biden and the matchup. It's just ridiculous. So these polls, junk science.
That is like 100% correct on the Gaza point, IRI, that anybody who's not voting Democrat because of Israel policy is a fucking moron.
Well, not only that, but I doubt. And maybe I could be wrong, and maybe there are polls that show something different. But there were so many people talking about how they're not going to support Biden over like Afghanistan. Does anybody even remember that anymore? Like, are we going to remember? Yeah, like right. Unfortunately, Americans have, fortunately or unfortunately, I guess, depending on what you. I think that like Americans have a very short-term memory when it comes to foreign policy. Like, we just don't care that much.
And I Brianna, hear you about that. Hold on just one second, because I hear what you're saying, IRI, but I think the counter thing I would say to that is my message is not we're going to lose, we're effed, freak out right now. I think this is kind of a higher level view of how the Democratic
Wow, Lawson Harrison, thank you for the $400 donation. I'm glad I pulled you away from Ryan Dawson. I love you, buddy.
What is happening right now is the Biden super PAC and the Biden 2024 itself has raised a pretty good deal of money. The media has not done a good job like advertising or talking about Biden's war chest. And all these forces are lining up behind the scenes of the party deciding how it's going to be spent. Now, the party traditionally, this is really getting to how politics is dysfunctional, Destiny. But you've got this class of people in the Democratic Party, and they love pushing you towards television ads. I would bet you a lot of money out of that giant figure that you just quoted of billions of dollars that they spent in elections. The majority of that, I would bet, went towards television ads, and they're aiming to do that again this cycle. The problem is TV is having less and less and less and less salience as every single cycle goes on. So my message isn't we need to just sit back and let this coast. It's that we've got to be thinking about the infrastructure we need to build today to be able to execute and win up and down the ballot. Because the decisions we're making in January, by like May, there will be no oxygen, and the way we spend that money will already be decided, basically.
I don't disagree, Brianna. Just shortly, I'll say, I just have a difference of opinion. I think it's more motivating to tell people we are kicking ass. We're going to kick ass. Here's how we've kicked ass. And we're not going to sit here and feel bad and say, well, don't be complacent, guys. Get out there and work. I just have a difference of opinion on it. I think it motivates me more personally to be like, yo, here's how we're kicking some ass. And let's go, guys. Let's go.
Fair.
Yeah. I would say that, like, in response to the initial things that Brianna brought up, the idea that polls don't matter. I don't know why IRI keeps saying this. When he's saying this, he doesn't mean polls don't matter. He's saying that polls right now are a snapshot in time, and that the polls are going to change significantly as we get closer to the election. And especially when you've got Republicans that are doing all of their advertising and all their campaigning right now because they've got primaries coming up. They're obviously getting a lot more media press coverage and everything. It's going to look a lot different when the general rolls around. Much the same as like. Who was the billionaire guy? Not Steyer, but the other one.
Bloomberg?
Yeah, the Bloomberg was polling unbelievably high because of all his advertising and everything. But it wasn't until he started showing up in debates and then people started voting, they're like, we don't like this guy. And none of that polling mattered. He fell off a cliff. So yeah, I feel like so I think for the polling thing, what you look for, or at least I think what some people are looking for, is that like how are Democrats performing in special elections and stuff around the country, and that doesn't seem to be impacted by Biden's approval, which is good so far. Now maybe that'll be a problem down the line. But then, yeah, and also it's a strange comment. You say like a generic Democrat would do better than Biden. I feel like Biden is kind of like a generic Democrat in terms of like his appearance. Like he's not black. He's not Obama. He's not like
the
Hillary
generic
Clinton
Democrat isn't 90 years old, dude.
Are you sure about that? How old is like the average voter in this? Yes. How old are you? Is the average voter in this country like fucking 83 years old, right? Like I feel like Biden is about as like generic of a Democrat. Yeah, he's old, but I mean Trump is also like what 84 or some shit. Like they're all fucking old. Yeah, I feel like Biden has done a pretty good job at not like, he doesn't incite a lot of hatred. He doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. He's just kind of like a dude that does this shit, but like, I think he does decently. And then in terms of like, people are blaming Biden on like gas price and shit, sure. But I mean, like, people blame Trump for COVID, right? Which, I mean, obviously there's a share of blame to be had for lack of response and everything, but like, yeah, people always blame presidents for stuff going on in office. That's not new. That's never going to stop. Like, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. The president, we hire a president not to make great speeches and inspire people. We hire a president to sit in a room, make tough decisions, surrounded by brilliant people, and somebody who has a lot of experience. And I think that's how Biden's going to sell himself to America. He hasn't even started. He's barely lifted a finger on campaigning, and he's already beating Trump in national polls this week. So I just think the sky's the limit. Again, he's going to reschedule things like marijuana. That's going to change so many people's minds. He's got so many tricks up his sleeve that he hasn't even begun to explore.
He's also got a shit ton more money at the moment, too. I think he's like out fundraising Trump like 3-1.
I agree. God, I don't want to be like, I sound pessimistic. Like, obviously, I wouldn't have my job if I didn't believe in this president, right? I wouldn't be doing what I do. But this is what I see. I think if you look at Obama, he was a really, really unique orator, and he had a special ability to communicate and connect emotionally with the American public. I think Trump is really unique at being able to connect with a certain percentage of Americans. He's also a vote-losing machine, but he's out there, he's able to give a speech, he's inspirational to some people. I think every time I hear Biden speak, let's just be honest, he is faded, he has trouble like getting that energy around, and he, let's be honest, skated through those debates last cycle, and that election was a lot closer than any of us would have liked. There's incumbency, like there's an advantage based into the incumbency this time around. And I think that's going to like translate to an advantage. People just tend to vote for a president, period. But I think the big thing that's going to change is not Biden stepping up and kicking ass. I think it's the media shifting and covering Trump more. Something I will admit I was wrong on is I supported, and I said this, like the media covering Trump less and kicking him off of social media and things like that. And I'm not so sure that's right today. Right now, he's out there functionally talking to his fringe right audience, saying this stuff they like, and media is not covering it the same way, which I think is why his approval is high. So maybe once he's back in that like vote losing machine cycle again, we'll be okay. But I really urge people not to be complacent this time.
Okay, let me put it in a different way then. Democratic policies are very popular right now, as per the generic Democrat. As per the Ohio issue number 1, abortion, constitutional amendment, legalizing marijuana, all that, abortion in general. You're telling me then that people are going to vote, and I'm not putting this on you, but just in general, people are going to vote for Trump and then all Democrats down the ballot? I just think they're going to vote for Democratic policies, and Biden's going to come along for the ride.
I think that it's going to translate into lower turnout. I think things have switched in our party somewhat, where a few years ago, high turnout was always good for Democrats. I don't think that's as true as it used to be. I'm worried that some people are going to stay home. Yeah.
We've had huge turnout, like in what was it in August in Ohio in the raising the threshold for yeah, like we've had huge turnout on our side, not because of Biden, but because of abortion. So I think like abortion is what's going to get people out.
I was going to say,
Biden's
I think
not
like,
going to excite people.
I think the Democrats have a secret weapon in the next election, and ironically, I believe everything Brianna said. Biden doesn't really inspire much strong feelings in terms of voter turnout, but I think Trump is very inspirational for both sides. Yeah. And I think Trump being on the ballot on the opposition side and bringing back those feelings, especially of like Roe v. Wade and stuff, I feel like is probably the biggest strength that Democrats have. That would be my guess.
Can I just cut in
Why
really
are all of
quickly
your
and ask you a
guys' mics
hypothetical?
so obnoxiously fucking loud and clipping? God, I hate Discord.
Loud?
All of you.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
I don't care. You're
it's
already no. That's fine. I'll turn you down. But like, fuck all of you. I hate you all. Sorry. Okay.
No, I should fix it. But
no, don't fix it because everyone will just turn you down all the time.
Okay, I got it. I want to ask you a hypothetical. Given that everybody's voting for Democratic policies and not Biden, why risk Trump being able to market, like say, go out and do the same campaign now with Biden's favorables low and say, hey, he's not healthy, he's not up for it, he can't even campaign and run, like be the president at the same time. How is he going to carry on for another 4 years? Why do you risk that when everybody's voting for Democratic policies and everybody hates Trump? Why wouldn't you just give up on Biden and move on to the generic Democrat? Newsom. Why wouldn't you just move on to Newsom?
You're tossing your incumbent advantage. And what they're doing to Biden, they'll do to Newsom. They'll find things to attack him on, right? I used to think, oh man, if Hunter Biden didn't exist, Biden would be great. If Biden was a couple years younger, they'll just find things to attack Newsom. It'll be all about French laundry, about Newsom's ex-wife. There'll be new things to attack Newsom on that have nothing to do with age or whatever. So it doesn't matter who the candidate is. So we cannot throw away that incumbent advantage. And I point to the midterms. Biden was a big part of the midterms, just like Trump was a big part of the midterms, and we did well. So I don't buy this idea that Biden is a drag on us. Biden is responsible for amazing legislation that we passed last year. I mean, this is what Gavin Newsom was saying in the debate versus Ron DeSantis. He's a huge surrogate of Biden. There's a reason why Gavin Newsom isn't running. He's not running in the background, not waiting. But Biden is a good president. And like I said, they haven't even begun to sell him to the nation. And they will show people why Biden is the right pick.
I'm really curious why you think Newsom isn't waiting in the background if he's doing this debate. I don't understand what that debate was about.
Go listen to him.
Waiting in the background.
He's publicly...
he said what he has to say.
Well, wait a minute. He went on the record in that debate and said explicitly, I mean, I guess suppose he lies, but he'd be getting his like ass chewed out in perpetuity over it. He publicly committed that he's not seeking the nomination, that he won't run for president. So
he won't run in the primary. I don't think anybody will primary Biden. I think
I don't think
best,
unless
Biden
I'm
would
wrong,
and they would put Newsom in.
That's not going to happen. That's ridiculous.
Okay. But
that's insane.
Why,
that's not even worth entertaining.
As for why he did the
Newsom
debate,
has the same odds as Nikki Haley in betting markets right now of being president.
Yeah, and he's not even running. So what does that tell you about the GOP?
What?
He's not running for president. He can't even get on the
know.
ballot in some places. So like, it's just it doesn't make sense.
Wait, if
Unless
let's say
Biden
Biden were
dies.
incapacitated, let's say he were incapacitated, they have to replace him with Harris, they can't replace him with Newsom?
No, at the convention, then they could choose somebody else if they want to be their nominee.
Yeah. Now I'm curious what the hell you're talking about, because he didn't just say I'm not running in the primary. Hannity challenged him. Are you running for president? Are you seeking the nomination? And he categorically said no. So are you saying he's just like he's hoping Biden either?
No, I don't think he's seeking the nomination. I think there's something going on in the background where they think if they have to back up and get rid of Biden, they just want the backup plan there. I don't think without Biden's blessing they would come for him. I think they pause.
What makes you think Biden is dropping out or would drop out?
I don't know if he's dropping out. I don't think he would unless there's a health event.
Why even entertain that at all?
If his
He's
polls
very
get
healthy.
bad enough, they will.
He's very healthy. He
will think
works
about it
out
precisely
4 or 5
because of
times
what
a
you
week.
said. Because of how popular Democratic policies are, and because of how strong they think their platform is, that it doesn't matter who they have, as long as they don't have somebody dying, that person will beat Trump. That is the argument.
Biden has some huge wins under his belt. I mean, his foreign policy has been incredible.
I'm sorry. Biden has the most important win under his belt. He's already beaten Trump. Why would you run a candidate why would you run it again? The idea that the Republicans want to run a candidate that already lost against this candidate is fucking wild. Why would you do this?
Just so, can you repeat that again? I thought I heard something that was really titillating. Could you repeat that?
Repeat what? So I don't know.
You said that Biden is what?
Destiny talk.
Biden is what? Biden's been a great president?
Great president. I say that all the time.
I
talk about that.
I didn't hear that. I love that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think he's been like a great America First president. I think you have every argument in the world for why he should be president again.
Except are you a Democrat or a Republican?
No, I'm not. I'm neither. I'd be somewhere in the middle.
Oh boy.
Oh, you're an enlightened centrist. I got it. So you're an embarrassed Republican.
I'd be a conservative. I'm a conservative in my country. I would probably. I have no idea in your country.
I think it's really
your politics are wild.
What Newsom is doing. Biden, for better or worse, is seen as an extension of the Obama administration, right? So what happened is when Obama came in 2008, this was a certain era of the Democratic Party, right? They came up with some new ideas like micro-targeting, starting to use large data analytics, something I would add we're going to be using at the Destiny Canvassing House to, make sure we're targeting specific kind of voters we can, connect with. Like, they had a certain set of tools that they started to use, and the people that were on the Obama train early enough, then went and worked in his administration, and they've been running the party functionally ever since. The Biden era of that, like this election, is the end of that. And there's a huge fight that's brewing, like behind the scenes, about who is going to be the next standard bearer of our party. You've got people like progressives. We're starting to think like who's going to be taking the reins over on our side. And Newsom, because he is a governor of a major state, he can afford to do things because he has the campaign resources to run ads in Florida talking about Democrats generically and get a lot of attention. He's trying to position himself as the heir apparent to Biden and the Democratic establishment for this next era because, Kamala Harris comes across as so weak. That seems really obvious to me. And it's also why, for that debate, he's stressing over and over again, he's not going to run, he's not going to be the nominee. He's not trying to be the nominee. He's trying to not piss off the party structure so in 4 years he can take those reins and then become president.
I think it's also, too, because he was pretty transparent about this, I think he's got, which I actually appreciate this about him, he's been saying consistently, Newsom has, that the Democratic Party has a messaging problem when it comes to rhetorical aggression. And that, right-wing governors like Abbott and DeSantis are setting the stage for the messaging war. And he basically says, I want to out-bully the bully. So that's why he was spending so much money in Texas and in Florida running advertisements, shit-talking Abbott and DeSantis, and why he wanted to have that debate. And he spent most of the debate, because as IRI says, it was a 2v1. Literally every question was predicated on, hey, California is a shithole. Newsom defend it. And DeSantis, why do you think California is such a shithole? So he spent most of his time basically pivoting and saying, well, DeSantis sucks and here's why. He was trying to make the case that, I think, yes, he has presidential aspirations, but I think it was also a factor of he wants Democrats to not just deliver results, but to sell those results. And we have to have some people in the party be a bully. We have to out-bully the bully. And I think he does it really well.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, I want to say you guys are close to 21K for the funds raised for the DGG Canvas House. So that's freaking awesome. Amazing.
It means we're going to be having an event in February for sure. So IRI, I would love to have you out there on the ground if we can get you. And Jessiah, I hope you will also come on out to the house. We'd love to have you there as well. Help us canvas that weekend.
I'm going to do everything I can to be there. So if you guys want to meet me and come on out and knock doors with me, then yeah, it'll be fun. I'll debate any of you chumps in person. Nobody in this call. I mean the DGG-ers.
Yeah,
I do think we need like a general die-off of old people in politics. I think that even Trump's age is insane. We need to get like some fresh, young, 65-year-old faces in here because, like, unironically, yeah, holy shit, it is like what isn't even Bernie was like fucking 80-something years old, right? Yeah, it's just
Bernie
insane.
And Pelosi
82
are older than Biden.
Yeah, like that Feinstein shit was comical. I'm sorry, but like, what the fuck, guys? Are we serious right now? Yeah, Jesus. We'll see what happens.
It's embarrassing. I mean, I really, from my generation, Gen X, and the last year you can be Gen X and not be a millennial, it is embarrassing how little we stepped up and ran for Congress. Like, who was McCain's running mate? Ryan? Like, he's the best Gen X.
No, Palin.
No.
Yeah.
The guy after that,
Romney and Paul Ryan.
Yeah, Paul Ryan. He's the best Gen Xer like we can come up with in Congress. Like, it's embarrassing.
Wait, Paul Ryan?
Yeah.
I thought wasn't Paul Ryan's leadership like fairly effective? Didn't Trump fucking hate him though? I could be misremembering. Maybe he did a really bad job as a leader, or
well, it's not so much that he did a bad job. It's like, this is like, if you're thinking about the Gen X that probably got the most power, like, he's certainly on that list. He's a Republican. Sure. So I'm like, he's out there saying Rage Against the Machine is his favorite band. It's like, what the hell, guys? Yeah. Like, my generation really sat it out. And this is why the boomers have had such an unusually long tenure running the country and deciding our foreign policy. And I think it has huge outcomes. Like, they are completely tuned out of things like climate change. I think with tech regulation, I think they've completely failed. Like, it has material effects, the generational divide. And I think, for all the talk I've done through my career about diversity, I do think age diversity matters. And I think we need more of that in Congress.
Yeah, Brianna, I think the median voter being just the fact that the boomers are the largest generation and have been for their entire lives. Once they start voting en masse, they're just going to keep electing each other and themselves until they age out of being voters.
That's right.
Well, this is why when all the young people are yelling, "I'm not voting for Genocide Joe," they're just kicking themselves. It doesn't do them any good because he'll just focus on older people, which, by the way, his support has grown. And with older people over Israel, they're like, hell yeah, we like what Biden's doing. The 65 and over crowd is like 70% supporting Biden on Israel.
Yeah.
All right. I love the conversation, but I do want to introduce the two people that joined the call. We have Sam, who's from Progressive Victory, is one of the directors there, and also Eric, another director. And you guys have some like really cool history in politics. I just want you guys to like talk about very quickly so we can maybe go off of that.
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. So my name is Sam. I'm the founder of Progressive Victory and its executive director. And we founded it because I think, you could see there's a lot of this conversation that I've been listening to about the personalities in the party, whether they're old or not, right? We have the Obama personalities, the Obama Club, we have the Bernie Club. But when those personalities, when you stop running for office, right? Like when Bernie decided to have his last campaign, when Obama had his last campaign, right? Like once they're gone, those people who were drawn to those personalities go away. But the content creators that, like Destiny, they perform that same role. They have that parasocial relationship already, and we can't just have this be one election at a time, right? It's you have to have people be enthusiastic to come and work on elections and turn out for elections in every election. And so having people, the parasocial relationship that creators control with their audiences that are able to bring people out election after election is really, really exciting. And also just how young people are so doomer today. That is the beautiful thing about working with creators who are talking to their audiences and actually trying to get them involved is that it's anti-doomer inherently. So that's the reason why we formed Progressive Victory. We formed it to work directly with creators to help them mobilize their audiences. And Destiny, you and your community have been doing this for longer than anyone. You have the background, and we're leaning a huge deal on your experience and your team's expertise in this. So that's why we're focusing on building this canvas house, and we're really excited to do it. So really glad to be here.
Yeah.
No pressure, Stephen.
No pressure, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I'm really excited to be here. My name's Eric Balsma, sort of a longtime political hack. Got started in 2004 working for John Kerry on the presidential campaign, and just fell in love with like grassroots politics and campaigns, and spent the next 20 years working in it. Worked on every presidential campaign, was a senior advisor on Elizabeth Warren's first run for Senate. And again in 2016, worked on the presidential campaign, as well as doing a lot of consulting for companies and doing public affairs work. But I mean, I fell in love with online streaming and online work in 2020, where we built a ballot cure campaign for the state of Georgia, where we leveraged online people to cure ballots in person and in-person door knocking campaigns, and we're able to cure 15,000 ballots in a week, which was more than the margin for Biden in the election. So it helped give him the state, and I'm so excited about what Progressive Victory is doing and Destiny's community. Because it is leveraging people all over the country in order to really affect local change, and it's a really effective way to do it, and I'm really excited about what's going on here.
I love that every single time. I don't do marijuana often, but when I do, it's all because of you and you making it legal here in Massachusetts. So when I go over to Patriot Care to blaze up, thank you, Eric. I think of you. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, I ran a lot of ballot initiative campaigns, and I worked with Peter Lewis on running a lot of the medical marijuana campaigns around the country, and a number of the legalization campaigns as well. So if you like marijuana, or cannabis, I probably helped make it legal there.
Very nice. Where is for this initial house? Do you want to speak a little bit about like what this MVP house is going to do, or what the goal is, or where it's going to be? I don't know if Brianna or Sejin or.
Yeah, it's going to be in Ohio. We're looking at District 1, which is like the Cincinnati-Dayton area, and the goal is really to just like get some real experience and make sure that like we're getting kind of like a gauge on the voter based on what they're looking like this year. We're going to use it a lot for research, so that when we bring out all the volunteers, that we can have some like real solid information to go off of. We're going to be piloting a couple different like data methods to try to find new voters, and then we think we're pretty excited about that. And then we're also trying to grow like a local network. So we're trying to start with Ohio, see how many volunteers we can get regularly, in addition to our normal team. And then we're going to be probably moving around later in May to another area to do the same thing. The idea is to not be like a force multiplier of not just us, but trying to build the volunteer network as well.
So this is something I was talking about in your Reddit, Stephen, and I really want y'all to think about this. So typically, like what y'all did last time is you're really reliant on the Democratic Party for data and the voter files. So I don't want to speak for you, but I'm going to guess.
Thanks, Channels, for the $100. I love you, buddy.
Volunteered for
but also,
the campaign.
Donate to this link, guys.
Campaign headquarters, and they gave you access to NGP Van, that crappy app on your cell phone, and then you went out and did walk lists, or they handed you pages of walk lists, like all printed out for you, and you walked back and reported, and somebody entered it, manually into the database. One of the cool things that we are going to be doing is PV is going to have access to the voter file this time. And we've got a data scientist. We are going to be able to decide who we want to target, and we are going to have that data. So it's not like we're going to be doing all this work and throwing into this black box for the Democratic Party. We are going to know who's Sejin's team is going and talking to, and we can activate that, like not just in this election, but in special elections in Ohio. We can do this in 2025 and 2026. So yeah, I really want DGG to think about the long game here, because if you believe in this project and come out and help us canvas and help us fund this, Destiny is going to have, and PV will have access to a really detailed list of people that we can activate for state races or local races. Of course, this has to be in compliance with law, but this is going to give you a really big voice in democratic politics as far as helping decide who's going to win in certain primaries or who's going to run here. I imagine if Stephen called me up and said, hey, I've got a DGGer, they're running for the state house, can we get them this data? I would call our lawyer and I would see how to make sure you got that, which would make your job much easier. So don't just think about this as going out and getting Biden on board. Think about this as Stephen helping build a tool in swing states that has amazing value. The Democratic Party is going to invest in what they call triple primes, which is hitting people that vote in state, local, and federal elections. They're not going to be doing deep canvassing. They're not going to be working on getting people registered to vote. They're not going to be building these networks. We are going to be building that. So just think about the voice this is going to give you if we stick with it.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a specific topic that you guys wanted to cover while you were in here, or is it just that, or?
I mean, I'd love to talk a little bit more about, how this came into being. It's something that happened actually over the summer. We had this panel that we were doing at a conference called Netroots Nation, which is a political conference, and Sejin came with us to be on this panel, and we started talking a lot and going to other people's panels at the convention. And there was one on deep canvassing that really started to give Sejin a lot of inspiration. Do you want to talk about that, Sejin, and sort of what made you think about doing this as a house?
Yeah, so deep canvassing is kind of the ultimate experience of canvassing, right? Destiny, you talked about how you went to Georgia and you talked with all these really cool voters that have been voting for years and years and years. But those people don't just naturally form. They were cultivated by their churches and their communities to become those voters. And deep canvassing is kind of doing that in a more modern way. It's talking to these people and having deeper conversations, building relationships, and basically trying to convert people from politically apathetic to actually dedicated voters up and down the ballot. Deep canvassing is usually referred to single voting stuff, but if we have a dedicated team to do this, and you have the opportunity, it's by far the best way to get volunteers, get people involved in the process, which I think is the biggest problem that we've run into in my generation, which is nobody knows how to get involved. Nobody knows how to sign up or volunteer. Nobody knows how to do any of this stuff. And they're too lazy to find out too. So if you go to them, it's more likely to happen. Yeah.
And what's really cool about it too is that it's filling a huge gap in what a campaign calendar is. I mean, Democratic campaigns have become really in the last 3 months of the effort. You just do a bunch of paid doors to drag people out to vote in the last 6 weeks before the election, and that's where everything is focused on paid advertising and everything. But all the research says that in order to make long-term voters, you have to talk to them throughout the year, and there's no real infrastructure for doing that, and that exists. And so it's a really big gap, and especially in a place like Ohio where you just had these really important statewide referendums, and so we got a bunch of young people out to vote. Like, how are we keeping out? How are we communicating with them throughout the year to make sure that they stay involved and invested? So I'm really excited about what Sagen is cooked up here, and it'll be a lot of fun.
And I'm going to go ahead and make an ask for it. I mean, those of you who are watching this stream, the amount of history that your community DGG has in getting engaged politically on the ground is frankly legendary, but you all haven't made the legend real enough yet for the general public, for people who aren't part of this community. And all of the expertise that has been built up to this point in your community about effectively engaging in elections to win this is the moment where it's going to burst out into the scene and everybody's going to understand exactly what you're doing. And so this is the moment when I think it's important to support these efforts, because it's going to build a reputation that, Brianna's been working really, really hard to build a media plan surrounding this that's going to get this community attention. So if we get people in the house, the crew, I've met these people that are going to be in this house. They are amazing people that are coming out of this community. So the efforts of what they're going to be doing that's so effective, and then the attention and the credit that's going to come to this community is going to be like a windfall you all have never seen. So you should look at the link in the description of the video, look at the link that's in the chat, and please donate $25 now, whatever you can afford, because we're going to be building this over the next few months, and it's really, really important that we have the resources to put it together in a way that it will make it the most effective.
Do you guys, for how many canvassing events do you think would happen at this first house? Like, is it just going to be like people staffing the house, or are people going to be able to go out and do like a big door knocking events and everything, or?
We're planning like one big event like we did in Georgia. We could maybe do 2 if we raise enough money. And then starting in May is when we really kick things off, and we're hoping to do one at every branch that we're able to open. So that might be anywhere from like 6 to 8 events. So lots of opportunity all across the country this time. So you West Coast guys don't get stuck not being able to do anything. We're doing stuff all over the country because this is like your first step into politics. This is how you get trained. This is how you get the confidence to go back home and like talk to your local campaigns and get involved there too.
I also, success breeds success. And one of the things, like once we have this first, we have this first story out there and this first event out there, it's where we're going to be able to get like the Biden 2024 team to look at this and go, hey, maybe we should send, somebody like Pete Buttigieg out there for this, right? So I actually think like once we have that first event and it's really, really successful, and we get like not just you, Stephen, but a bunch of other people's streamers out there to like talk about this and contribute their communities. Like, think about the story. Media is going to love this because it's like younger people putting aside their cynicism, and then their favorite edgy streamers are like out there asking them to get involved, right? So that's where, we get, Stephen on, national cable television, talking about this. We get someone like the New York Times to cover it. And it kind of starts to rewrite the story about how people think about Twitch poll. So it's not just about these canvassing events. It's about rewriting how people see this entire space. It's about getting people to take it seriously. And it's about getting the Biden super PAC and the Democrats generally, including the operations to win the House and the Senate this year, to get them to kind of pause and go, wait, this is worth, look at all these people doing deep canvassing. May will buy 1% fewer television ads this cycle and fund this like really, really aggressively. So it's all of this ties into the other thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be cool to have more fixation, I guess, nationally on what like influencers or streamers can do for mobilizing audiences for elections, because obviously I feel like that hasn't really happened at all yet. And it seems like there's like a surprising amount of people that could be mobilized there for things. So do you know, I'm actually curious, there's like VidCon and shit. Besides Fuentes with AFPAC, has any other like political YouTuber streamer like the Young Turks or the Majority Report or Tim Pool done like big political meetups or whatever? Has this happened? Do you know?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. What about y'all?
No, can't think of any. CPAC. But no, not influencers.
You're talking about, Dustin, you're talking about political content creators coming to the political conferences, or you're talking about creating their own conference?
Them having some sort of their own kind of meetup or conference, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Like, well, I know Fuentes does it with AFPAC, but I'm trying to think of anybody, or he did, I think. I don't think he did it last year, right? Or this year, whatever.
He's doing it this year in Arizona.
Oh, he is doing it this year,
month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like an opportunity. I mean, that if there isn't a big in-person meetup for political content creators, there should be.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, yeah, that's like the one I went to in Georgia in 2021 was kind of like a mini Destiny Con. It was a lot of fun. Everybody had a blast hanging out, and knocking on doors was fun, but it's also just a community event. So I think that's the advantage of a community like this.
Yeah.
As opposed to some TikTok rando who's got 1 million followers. As was said earlier by Brianna, like these people, you know, the engagement with their followers, they're not going to get them to do anything.
That's exactly right. Like, no offense to TikTokers, but yeah, I don't think the salience is there as much. I think, you know, Destiny, one of the things, your community was really, really surprised when Taylor Lorenz wrote that article about you and Ro Khanna streaming for 4 hours in front of the White House. And you gotta understand, like, I pitched that to Taylor, and she was like, oh, thank God. Like, thank God the Democrats are finally starting to think about this, because she's been covering this for years. And, like, I'm probably mangling these numbers, but directionally they're true. Some absurdly high percentage of people get all of their news from influencers of Gen Z. It's like 69% or something like that. It's crazy, crazy high. So, you know,
that's not surprising, given that I think prior to this, I think for baby boomers, I think it was like over 50% of them got their news exclusively from Facebook. So that's not surprising at all.
Yeah, exactly. So this is why when people are, you know, talking about you know, Hasan and maybe some of his takes being a little off a bit lately, like, some people want to dismiss this as, oh, that's just drama. I don't agree with Emma Vigeland. I think the space matters. I think your opinions matter. I think you're educating people. And I think if the Democratic Party doesn't figure out a way to reach out to people like you and give your audience a pathway to make themselves heard, I just feel like we're forfeiting an entire generation.
And the one thing I would add is that, like, we know that the Biden campaign is thinking about this. It's been written about in the press. Like, they want to figure out, like, gamer media, and they just don't really have. I mean, this is a bunch of really old people who don't understand it there, but there are, like, the DNC is thinking about it. Ramsey, the state's director Ramsey is thinking about how to get engaged in this space. So people are thinking about it. Nobody knows it. So that's where the opportunity lies.
IRI, I know, like, we brought you on a little later than we planned to, but I did want to ask you a question if you still have time.
Yeah, sure.
With the Santos explosion and with all the people retiring, how close is the House looking in 2024? I remember looking at it a couple of months ago, and it looked like a tough but winnable race. But how does this sort of, I guess, change the landscape?
Well, the fact that the Republicans are the ones that led the charge to expel Santos when they only had a 4-seat majority should tell you that they're shitting bricks right now. There are 18 Republicans that represent districts Biden won in 2020. It looks very good, especially with the Supreme Court ruling on districts having to be redrawn in states like Alabama. So I think our chances are very high of taking back the House. The Senate is the real concern. With Manchin dropping out, are not running for re-election, we're back down to 50-50, and we've got some tough races to win, including in Ohio, where Sherrod Brown, the Democrat, is running for re-election. So as much as I want to help Biden win, I think it's almost more valuable to push for Sherrod Brown, in the same breath when it comes to that. I'm sure many people will as they knock on doors.
It's worth noting, too, that we're also going to be helping the incumbent senator in Montana, which is going to be a tough one.
John Tester?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I think that the House is looking pretty damn good with all the chaos. I mean, this is the first time in history a speaker has been kicked out, and it happened under the Republican watch. And this may not be the last speaker, Mike Johnson, and he may be seeing the exit door soon too. So I think the House is looking pretty good.
And for what it's worth, Matt Gaetz was complaining to Charlie Kirk the other day that, Santos's expulsion brings their majority down to 3 votes. And then you have Bill Johnson from, I think, Ohio. He's going to be resigning to become like the president of some university. So that'll take him down to 2. And I mean, there's no telling what may happen between now and then. He said explicitly, he's like, I'm worried we're going to lose the majority before the election, either due to resignations or deaths.
Well, McCarthy is rumored to be thinking about retiring as well. There's a filing deadline for re-election in the middle of this month, so we'll find out soon. So they may be down to a 1-seat majority.
That would be hilarious if as like a final fuck you to the Republicans, because he was their, not only do they need him for the majority, he's their best fundraiser by far.
He's a giant.
Don't forget, we pick up a seat in Alabama.
Yeah,
I have some good news, y'all. We just crossed 28K. Very exciting. So we are just $2,000 away from our next stretch goal, which I'm really psyched for.
What's the next stretch goal? Remind them.
It is DGG merch. So Sejin has the specifics, but for people that donate over a certain amount, we're going to have special merch for them. So that's Sejin's plan. I will not presume to tell y'all about it.
Yeah, we're gonna be launching like a specific line of merch that's like 2024 politically like oriented. There's like a lot of ideas floating around of what it's gonna look like, and then we're also at the events. Anyone that attends is gonna get like a small little souvenir, and this could be pretty cool. I like those things. I hoard those things needlessly in my closet and whatever. I love those little trinkets.
I do have to admit, I was disappointed, Stephen, that you didn't want to dye your hair blue again. Because everybody I know, like my nieces, I was talking about this, and they're like, oh, that's the guy with the blue hair. And they're like, 15 and 16. Like, it's how people know you. I think this is a good stretch goal.
I mean, it's a good like branding thing for the Red Pill arc. It definitely was. But like, as I'm moving into slightly more serious political discussions, everything, I don't know if that's something I want working against me. It's also like a lot of personal maintenance that I don't know if I want. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do like my Ben Shapiro debate with blue hair. Not 100% sure on that yet.
That's fair.
So I don't know. We'll see. I might do it again in the future. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how I feel about it. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. And then you have your Dark Brandon mug while he has his liberal tears or leftist tears tumblers.
Yeah.
It would like set the stage. Is that still happening, by the way? I don't even know if you can talk about it. But
yeah, it was pushed to January, apparently, because of all the Israel-Palestine stuff going on right now and the change in all the shit they're doing. I don't know how that would affect things, but that's what they said. So right now it's tentatively scheduled for January, I think 15th or 16th or sometime mid-January right now, yeah.
And did you concretize the topic? Is it going to be Biden v. Trump? I hope it is. Please, dear God, be.
I don't know what Lex is, but it will only be about like Trump Biden stuff. I'm not solid. Even if it's a different topic, I'll just change it. We're not going to go and talk about transports for 4 hours. I would off myself.
God.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Just kill me.
It'll be something like it'll be something important or relevant, I would hope. Yeah. All right, well, anything else? I got like a ton of stuff I can go through, links to stuff people want to talk about, unless there's something else you guys want to bring up that's related to either the houses or the funding or, anything else you guys want to talk about. And obviously you're free to come back for the next 4 hours too, but...
Yeah, I do have to get out and help with my daughter. We're going to put her to bed soon, but I just want to say before I go, first of all, thank you for having me on. Thank you for making this investment with your community, Destiny. This is
damn. Wait, what state do you live in? Or are you like in Europe?
No, I live in Virginia, but my daughter is young. She's going to bed soon, so
damn,
we got to give her a bath tonight.
That's a harsh bedtime. 5:30. To be fair, I remember when Nathan was like, I think 6 or 7. I think his bedtime was like, I think it was 8 o'clock too. So he slept pretty early as well. Yeah, but okay.
Yeah. Well, she's just she requires a lot of help, so we gotta have multiple parents there. But
gotcha.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you to you for deciding to invest in this. This is something that, as I was coming into this space and just watching what creators were doing, it was just apparent that everybody wanted to do canvassing. That's what creators were interested in doing, and it's because of the example that you set. doing this so early, and the work that you did in Omaha and Georgia, and it's really exciting to help put this together with your team, and everybody who's donated already, thank you very much. This is going to be one of the coolest things that has ever happened in politics, and we have an amazing team that's working on this right now, and it's going to be really beautiful to watch, and I can't wait to see it. So thank you to everybody who's doing this, and we're really looking forward to making this real.
Thanks for coming on, Sam. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming and chatting. We appreciate it. Yeah, and for the opportunity to donate and set all this up and everything too. So yeah.